Testing 1, 2, just testing on the live stream here to make sure we have audio. Test number 2, testing levels 1, 2. Testing on live stream again, test 1, 2.
Hi there, can you hear me? I can, yeah. I can't see anything, of course, but...
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out tonight. We have a tremendous crowd here. It's nice that you're all here. My name is Roger Bouvier. I was here about 3 years ago for one of these. Much bigger attendance tonight, and I'm glad to be back. I'll be your moderator. This evening's event will be slightly different than what we did a couple years ago. A couple years ago, we had the council put this on, and they spoke, and there was a few questions. Tonight, we're only having one guest speaker, but we have a lot of people up at the front here that are bringing their expertise on the subject that they deal with on a regular basis. So it's an opportunity for all of you to question them, and I'll introduce them all, and then you'll have a chance after our one speaker to ask questions, your concerns. We want this to be a community event more than a council-led event. Council didn't want to be standing up here saying certain things. We want to hear what you have to say, what your concerns are. Maybe there's some misunderstandings that you need clarified. So that's the idea of having all these experts at the table here tonight. We have many guests, as I mentioned, but only one is going to speak. The town has organized this town hall meeting focused on crime-related issues. Our guests, some appearing virtually, so there will be some that would be, they're not here, but they will be available for questioning. We'll speak on such topics as harm reduction, policing, housing, addictions, homelessness, court process, and prosecution. So social services, you see there's a wide variety of topics that we have people to answer your questions and concerns tonight. The goal of this event from the town perspective is to hear your concerns and possibly some solutions. We want to hear your concerns, your advice. It's good that you've got such a nice big crowd. We're hoping to hear a lot of your issues. Staff Sergeant Scott Linklater will make a short presentation to start the process, and then we'll proceed with your questions and concerns on the topics. I was hesitating to mention that we have coffee and water at the back. I didn't want to empty the room, but everybody rushing back there. There is a lot of coffee and water, so somewhat organized. You can go and get yourself a coffee when you have a chance. You have a concern?
Sure. I was just going to announce a little bit about the live stream, how it works, and if people on the Teams call and explain to people how the questions work. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have people on the live stream today. So if you're on the live stream and you're tuning in now, we are taking questions from the live stream. So you'll just have to log into your Gmail account or your YouTube account, and you can ask those questions. And if we have time, then we will ask those questions live. We do ask you to please keep it respectful. If something's at hand or no swearing, you will not get read. So please keep it respectful. The people on the Teams call you are live on you're being played out loud, so when you unmute your mic, just be aware that you will be talking to everyone in the room. I'd just like to make that clear. And then we have two microphones here. We have one here and one over there, so they will be for your questions. I'm pretty sure you're just going to walk up, right? And when they want to ask a question, they can ask it. Is that how it's going to go? Same as last time?
Yes, if they have questions, they should go to the mic, give their name and who they wish to speak to.
Awesome. So, yep, I just wanted to make sure the people on the live stream and the teams calling you that when they unmute their mic, you will be talking to everyone. So,
Okay, thank you. As far as the people sitting at the front, we're going to use this microphone here. So if there's a question forwarded towards you, please come to the microphone and use this one. We don't have enough to get around to everybody, so we'll do it that way. Washrooms are over here. We're asking also, as far as your cell phones, please put them on mute or shut them off completely so that they don't go off during the presentation. Okay, I'm going to start by introducing all our guests. They're not necessarily in the order that sitting in the order that I have, but they're here, so we'll go with that. Our first guest is Mayor Lance Jacobson, Town of Swan River. Deputy Mayor Dave Morio, Town of Swan River. Andrew Miner, Executive Director of Manitoba Police Commission and Senior Advisor. Staff Sergeant Scott Linklater, RCMP. Right? Yeah. Sorry, I don't know any of you. So. James Wigley, CEO, Canadian Mental Health Association, Swan River. Stacey Grindle, Program Manager, CMHA. Jackie Lumax, Program Manager, also with the same firm. Mark Lafreniere, he's virtual. Yeah. Mark Lafreniere is the Director of Manitoba Prosecution Services. Dr. Aaron Knight, Health Science Center, also virtual, okay. Shannon Isley, Executive Director of Manitoba Harm Reduction Network, that's virtual also. Oh, she couldn't make it, okay. We had some last minute. Did I miss anyone? Corporal Cole Platnick from the local RCMP. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. That name didn't make my list here. Lana Many Gray Horses, Assistant Deputy Minister, Department of Housing, Addiction and Homelessness. Thank you. Different way of doing it. Owen Ferguson, Assistant Deputy Minister, Manitoba Justice. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so we'll ask Staff Sergeant Scott Linklater to speak.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize right now that I'm not a great speaker like some of the people up here would be, like the mayor and anyone else. My name is Staff Sergeant Scott Linklater, and I am with the RCMP Manitoba West District. And part of my area that I look at is I work with the Swan River Detachment. Staff Sergeant Steve Henson is away this month, and so I'm filling in for him. Just thought we'd start off the evening tonight with just a little bit background of where we are right now with the detachment and where the crime stats are, so that we can give you some more information to better have for your questions. So this is our current detachment staffing levels right now. You can see there's some vacancies there. The vacancies up there are actually 30 days or more. So out of 22 regular members, we have 12 that are on the road fit for duty. 2 of those have less than 6 months service and are in the field coaching practicum. However, we are expecting 3 more members coming in the month of November. The GIS unit there, those are new positions to the detachment. We have not filled those as of yet. We've filled the corporal. She's off leave right now. The constable positions we're holding off on because the interest in those positions was actually from in the detachment. So we can't take away from the general duty detachment when we're short and leave them short to fill the GIS. So as we get numbers back up in the detachment, we're going to slide members over into that GIS unit and get that going, because I know that's an anxious topic here. So right now, the serious crime, violent crime in Swan River is trending at or below the 5-year average. That little graph there shows the months of June to end of September. The gray area is actually the 5-month or 5-year trends, where the top and maximum and minimum. The blue line is the median in there, and that red line is actually where we were for the first quarter this year, and that's from April to June. Just because of the timing, our stats don't come out for the next quarter until a few weeks from now, after this meeting. So between July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, there's been 124 serious violent crime occurrences. That ranks amongst the top 3 detachments in Manitoba West District and 14th in the division of 79 detachments. On to property crime. Property crime in Swan River is trending below the 5-year average in the most recent quarter. Between July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, 676 property crime occurrences. Swan River ranks among the top 3 in Manitoba West District and 6th in the division of 79 detachments. Shoplifting in Swan River now is still trending again below the 5-year average in the most recent quarter. By calendar year, our worst year was 2023, where there's 353 occurrences. 224, there's 254 occurrences. And this year today is 56. So we're well below what we have been in the past. So our excuse me. Our top 10 priority repeat offenders in Swan River from March 1st, 2024 to August 31st, 2025 have been suspected to be involved in 89 property crime occurrences, 43 person crimes occurrences, 33 CDSA occurrences. That could be whether it's tips or whether they've been charged or anything that suspects them of doing anything with CDSAs. And 170 total criminal occurrences, including traffic and other criminal code. So 10 people are causing all that amount of work for our detachment. Each of those is expected to be involved in as few as 9 occurrences and as many as 40 each. Those offenders will also offend not only in the Swan River area, but in Dauphin, Winnipeg, Osis, and St. Rose de Lac detachments as well. 9 out of the 10 of them have been charged with crime. These 9 offenders were charged in 3 occurrences on average. All were believed to be in serious crime. 8 out of 10 were believed to be involved in serious crime. Of these offenders, 7 were charged in a serious crime occurrence. Serious crime is anything against a person. So that's assault with weapon, assault caused bodily harm, that kind of thing. So they're doing harm to other people. So I hope that gives a little bit of context about where the detachment is now and where our crime stats are. And hopefully it'll help you with this evening's questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to proceed right away with questions, concerns that you have. You heard a little bit about what the RCMP have been doing in the past year, and but it's not just about that report. We have a lot of, as I mentioned before, a lot of good people here tonight that you may have some specific concerns or questions. And we'd ask that you provide your name, go to a mic, provide your name and who you like to forward the question to. If you're not sure of who you want the question to go to, we'll try to get someone here to answer it accordingly. I also want to mention, and if it wasn't mentioned, we have a sign-up sheet at the front door. If possible, on your way out, for those of you who haven't signed it, it'd be nice to get your name and an email address if possible. So if we need to get back to anybody, we'll have that kind of information. So I'll take my first question. Oh, there you go. Is there a number to these mics? He's coming to fix it for you there. Okay.
My name is George Gervais. I lived in Minnetonka for many years, but my mother-in-law was taken to the hospital in Swan River before, and I want to talk to somebody that has to do with the hospital of Swan River, because my question is related to the occupancy of the available beds in the Swan River Hospital. Because she ended up getting moved down to Russell and then to Rossburn and then back to Swan River. And I have a question because people told me that in the Swan River Hospital, there's many, many beds are taken up by people that came from the area that would have maybe drug addiction problems or different kind of problems. So my question would be, what percentage of the beds, of the total number of beds in the Swan River Hospital that would be taken up by people could be with drug addiction problems or something, making it the bed is not available for a senior citizen?
Yeah, we don't have anyone specifically here this evening to speak on that topic, but the mayor mentioned that someone will go speak to you after the meeting or during the meeting. Is that fine?
Perfect.
They should be able to get you some information.
So my question is, just so it's clear for everybody, is out of the total number of beds that would be available in the Swan River Hospital, I've been told by a few different people that they're mostly taken up by people that maybe would be related to like drug addictions, and I don't know if it needs to be handled differently than it is right now.
Okay, someone will get back to you tonight. Thank you. Any other questions? Comments, concerns? Are you ready over here? Go ahead, sir.
This is for the justice. How come when that officer was up, showed repeat offenders? How come so many repeat offenders?
Thanks for your question. I think there's a couple of factors with respect to repeat offenders, and I'm sure many of you have heard a lot of the national discourse, and specifically from the Justice Minister and others, AMM. I know Mayor Jacobson as well has raised this as a significant issue. There are provisions in the criminal code with respect to bail, which have been a main area of focus of discussion. I think, you know, as we hear from the staff sergeant, the repeat offenders aren't. Oh, sorry. Oh, we're good. Okay. And so, in terms of the way the current system was structured and some of the changes that were made several years ago, with changes to the federal criminal code, prioritized the release of individuals on bail. And part of our advocacy, and you may have seen that the federal government is intending to introduce legislation this fall around bail reform, but specifically for Manitoba, our focus has been on ensuring that there's changes to the federal criminal code so that repeat offenders can be held in custody, and also looking at sentencing reform as well as other enforcement mechanisms we can take. So there's some pieces of this that are tied up with the criminal code and the requirements around bail. Some of the pieces are obviously related on the enforcement side. And so at the provincial level, we've been trying to take a number of initiatives to try and focus on those that are out of custody on bail. So you may have seen within the last year a couple of things at the provincial level, including we've stood up a number of specialized policing units, including the Manitoba Integrated Violent Offender Unit. That unit is intended to target individuals, repeat violent chronic offenders. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I believe we were close to 800 detentions last year by that unit. 80% plus of those individuals were on release, bail, probation. And so we've also introduced some electronic monitoring program to put ankle bracelets, for lack of a better term, on individuals so we can have better monitoring in the community. So there's a couple of different pieces there, and we're hoping through some of the legislative changes that are coming in the fall here at the federal level, we'll see a bit of tightening on the bail and release side and sentencing side. And then adjacent to that, we want to try and support our RCMP members because I travel across the province, meet with a lot of communities and a lot of venues like this, and I know the Minister of Justice does as well, and just hearing the frustration in community after community of these repeat chronic offenders and the impact they're having. And so we've tried to take a bit of an approach of what's within the province's area of control from an enforcement and monitoring perspective, as well as lobbying and really working with our colleagues at AMM and other elected officials to really pressure the federal government around significant reform in that area so that these repeat offenders can be held in custody.
Because I'm from this area, and some of those repeat offenders that we're talking about is really like shouldn't be on the street. And it's all got to do, in my opinion, is this catch and release program like the Liberals put out. And like, it's just a question. I didn't get anything out of your answer, but that was a question. Thank you.
Well, I apologize if you didn't get anything out of my answer. I think what I'm trying to highlight is that we need to change the rules and the laws around the release of offenders, which we are lobbying to do, which is within this federal span of control, which we have been working with our colleagues at the federal government around changes on that front. And we're very optimistic that the upcoming crime bill, which the federal government has indicated will be introduced in this fall session, will address a lot of the issues and make some meaningful reforms. Outside of that, we are looking, as I said, a number of initiatives at the provincial level in which we can try and support our policing and justice system partners. And so I hear your frustration. I appreciate, what is constantly referred to as the revolving door of justice and the impact it's having on your communities. And so that's what I can share with you in terms of some of the actions we're trying to take right now. But I appreciate that, tomorrow is not fast enough. We need to address this problem today, and we need to make some meaningful change. Thanks.
Thank you. We have a question over there.
Yes, my name is Devin Jornson, and it's a several-pointed question. No matter what happens with this issue, we have a mental health issue, we have a housing issue, we have a legal issue, we have all different aspects of this thing that have to be dealt with. All of it is going to take many, many resources, both financial, manpower, different governments, and everything else. I guess maybe first to Lance, you could address, have you had any feedback from the federal governments or the provincial governments on what kind of resources that we in this town can expect that once we get some kind of a game plan, that we're all working together towards one thing, and what kind of resources are they going to throw at us? Or are we going to be left here on our own to try and figure it all out? And then how is it going to be coordinated with all these people, and so that we're not, these people are working this way and these people are working that way? It's going to be a logistic nightmare to get everybody on the same page. And is there any thoughts of looking at other municipalities or whatever to find out what they're doing, how they're doing it, so that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here and we can best use the resources that are going to be available to us, I hope, in order to do it productively rather than just spinning our wheels.
Yeah, thank you. You're right with the issues of mental health and housing and addictions and homelessness, and those are all good points, and those are things that we've actually brought up with several different ministers that you mentioned. The municipality, like a lot of people think that the municipality carries a lot of weight with that. We really don't. We can lobby as much as we possibly can, but as far as where those services and how those services will come together, I really can't answer that. You're probably absolutely right. I know that we do have some individuals sitting at the panel here tonight that might want to take a stab at that. I don't know if I'm putting James on the spot with that, but if he wants to maybe comment on that, because that's kind of like their wheelhouse more or less and their kind of things. So would you want to maybe address some of that? But to answer your question as far as what council's doing and lobbying, we have been, but this has been a very slow and painful process. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I don't know how this works. Maybe you'll still hear me. Okay. Yeah, so I'm James Wigley. I'm the CEO for Canadian Mental Health Association in this area. I can speak a little bit about some of that coordinated effort, and I can speak a little bit about the services that we're currently providing here in the Swan River Valley. And so as far as the coordinated effort goes, Swan River as a community is one of the 11 in the province that is doing the community safety and well-being planning, which is being led by the Manitoba Justice Department. And is heavily involved one of our programs that we run as CMHA, which is community mobilization, which is where we have a fairly large uptake in that process. And so the idea behind that is to develop a community safety plan, well-being plan for the community that takes a look at a variety of different challenges that the community is facing, such as homelessness, addictions, mental health, housing, various crimes, and anything else that might be covered under that. And within that process and within that plan is to really earmark and take a look at what steps can be taken by the community, what steps can be owned by various service agencies, businesses, community service clubs, groups, and that sort of thing, to actually see the plan be enacted and carried forward in a positive way. And so that is, in my opinion, something that I think is going to support us as a community to do some coordinated effort with that plan. I'm hopeful for that. We've been involved in this process for months, actually years, a couple years now. And it's proven to work in other municipalities and communities across Canada. And so I am hopeful that we will see some positive results come from that once that gets implemented. With respect to CMHA, I can speak to some of the services that we do offer as far as that goes. So we have a number of programs and services within our community that touch on basic needs, the social determinants of health, housing, that sort of thing. One of our programs is the Community Housing with Supports program. That program was implemented 2 years ago. It's a new program to the Valley, but not a new program to CMHA. So it's a program that involves housing as a long game. It's not a short game. We understand that in order for an individual to be ready for housing, they have to want to be ready for housing, and there has to be certain components covered for themselves to actually be successful. So that program is aimed to be implemented to support individuals to get to that point, and then to support them beyond that with stable housing. So in the 2 years that we've had that program in the Swan River Valley, we have supported a caseload of 89 unique individuals. So those are 89 unique individuals that were chronic or episodic homeless in the Valley. And of those 89 individuals within the 2 years, there's only 3 of them that we've not been able to house. And so that's a 96.6% success rate for that program. Again, I understand it's can feel like a drop in the bucket at times with the challenges that we're experiencing as a community. But when we look at the bigger picture and what we've been able to accomplish with a program such as that in 2 years, that's 90 individuals that are not on the streets. That would be if that program didn't exist. And so it's programs and services like that that meet the mandate of CMHA provincially and regionally, And it's services like that that we continue to put our investment and our resource in, being our funding that we receive from the provincial government, from our other funders, as well as our staff capacity. And so again, that's just a touch point on one of the things that we are currently doing, and our hope is with the plan and with some more coordinated effort and discussions within the community, we can see how a program like that can actually work alongside and parallel with a multitude of other solutions, because we know that the challenges we're experiencing as a community is not going to have a one-size-fits-all solution. And so hopefully that answers a bit of your question. I know it doesn't answer all of it. I was hoping that there would be other people up here too from some other sectors that might be able to speak a little bit more to some of those things that I'm not privy to. But from our point of view as CMHA, that's what I'm able to share tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Mark Lafreniere from Crown online. He wants to make a comment on this issue.
Not on the last question about homelessness, et cetera. First off, I just wanted to thank everyone for allowing me to attend virtually. I apologize for not being able to be there in person. I just kind of wanted to explain a little bit. I stopped talking because I'm watching the live stream, and I think there's a little bit of a delay. So maybe if someone could just go up to the podium and just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me talking properly.
Yeah, you're doing well. Just keep going. Go ahead.
I hope you can hear me talking properly, so I'm going to just talk a little bit about bail. We've had a member of the community ask a question about repeat offenders. So I just wanted to explain. I'm a Crown attorney. I've been a Crown attorney for 23 years. My position with Manitoba Justice Prosecution Service is in a managerial role in terms of oversight of various prosecution offices outside of the City of Winnipeg. So I'm the Director of Regional Prosecutions. My position is not political, so I'm a lawyer, and hopefully I can explain a little bit about the process, how it works when someone gets arrested. In terms of just, I know my RCMP colleagues gave a little bit of statistics from their perspective in terms of crime. I just wanted to give everyone in the town hall a little bit of perspective from Manitoba Justice in terms of prosecution service, in terms of our files that we have opened or that have come into our office since January. We don't keep the same kind of statistics as the RCMP do. I can tell you that since January of 2025 in the province of Manitoba, our office has opened approximately 30,604 criminal files. So a criminal file for us includes when an information is sworn and a charge or charges are laid on that particular information. An information is the charging document that then gives the court the jurisdiction to have individuals brought before them and dealt with according to law. In terms of our region here that we're talking about, the Dauphin area, I can tell you that out of those 30,000, 604 files in our Dauphin Crown Attorney Office, we have since January 1st opened 1,225 files. So in terms of percentages, that's approximately 4% of files in the province of Manitoba out of the Dauphin office. In terms of the staffing in our Dauphin office for Crown attorneys, and I'm not going to get into support staffing in terms of our office. We currently have a supervising senior Crown attorney who is excellent, that oversees our office and also carries a caseload in terms of trial files himself as well. We currently have 3 other Crown attorneys that work in the Dauphin Crown office, and we currently have 2 vacancies that we have active job ads that we're trying to fill. I'm pleased to let people know that we have had 1 successful candidate pass all of our security screening, so we're hoping to have that individual start within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that's going to give us another Crown attorney in the Dauphin office, and we're actively trying to fill the final position that's open. We've also hired a temporary Crown attorney, an individual who has graduated just recently from law school, who's moving back to the Maritimes, but will be in our province for approximately 6 months. So they were hired on a casual contract. We do have a dedicated Crown attorney, Mr. Guillaume Dragon, who's an experienced Crown attorney who comes from a very a wealth of background. He's been a defense lawyer in private practice. He has been a professor at the law school, and he was also a judicial justice of the peace for a period of time before he returned to the practice of law. So he's an excellent, very smart individual, one of the most hardworking Crown attorneys that we have, and he is dedicated. His assignment is actually the Swan River court jurisdiction. That is his assignment, and his file count varies. It flows up and down, but I can tell you the most recent file count for Mr. Dragon with files that were initiated by the Swan River RCMP detachment is approximately 300, just over 306, I believe, files that are working their way through the system at various points. So just want to quickly come back then. So that gives a little bit of background about prosecution service. We obviously work with the RCMP. The way that the system is set up in Manitoba, we have a process where, of course, the police always have the authority to authorize charges on their own, but we have a system put in place. It's called pre-charge screening, where we kind of meet halfway. And what I mean by that is the police will complete their investigation and forward an investigative package to the Crown Attorney's office, and then that is reviewed. And the police will recommend certain charges, and the Crown Attorneys will then, at that point, determine whether we're going to proceed or not with criminal charges. That's if individuals are out of custody. If the RCMP, when someone is arrested, there's various provisions of the criminal code, and I won't waste your time going through them all, but there's different processes for release. One of the main things in the criminal code is, however, Section 503. And when someone is arrested, and if they are not going to be immediately released, and the police do have authority to release people in a number of different circumstances, then they have to be brought before a court within 24 hours for some type of a hearing. And that's often what's called a bail hearing, or in the criminal code, it's actually called judicial interim release. So there's a requirement that someone be brought before the court within 24 hours for their hearing. So the RCMP will deal with an individual, and they'll determine whether or not they want to arrest someone based on their role. Then the arresting officer or their sergeant will determine whether this is something that they could release the individual on their own with a promise to appear in court in the future. If not, then they would advise the Crown, and we have Crown attorneys that are on duty 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year for bail hearings or remand hearings. So the police will then notify the Crown's office that they're seeking to have this person detained, and then the Crown will make an initial decision at that point. When we often, and more likely than not, we're of the same view of the police, then we come into the bail regime. And like Owen was saying, and Owen's role is different than my role in terms of what Owen and his counterparts are doing to lobby changes to the criminal code. At this point in time, prosecutors have to work with the law as it stands, as it currently is. And so the law, as it currently stands in Canada, across Canada, is the Charter of Rights and Freedoms mandates that individuals are entitled to release at the earliest opportunity on the least onerous conditions. That's from the Charter. You're guaranteed your right to bail. And the criminal code itself, if you are interested in looking it up, Section 515 in the criminal code, which is available publicly online. You could search it online. It sets out all of the sections that mandate bail and how bail works. And again, the criminal code indicates that release is presumed on the least onerous conditions. So the Crown has to justify why we want an individual to stay in custody. And we do that all the time, and that's called opposing someone's release. And when we oppose someone's release, then we turn to the three grounds of detention where someone could be detained in court, and they're commonly called the primary ground, secondary ground, and the tertiary ground. And that is properly Section 515 sub 10 of the criminal code. So the primary ground is dealing with ensuring that someone will actually come to court if they're released. It's to ensure they come to face their charges and that the court will retain jurisdiction over them. There's a number of factors. I won't get into all of them, but generally speaking, factors that a Crown Attorney and specifically the court, when we make our submissions to the court, will look at is whether there are ties to the community, are there history of non-compliance, not failing to appear, not coming to court. For example, are there roots in the community, their citizenship, passports, where do they live right now, their employment history, all of those kind of things, their character, their age and maturity, history of any flight, all those kind of things. The secondary ground, and this is where most of bail hearings are fought in court, it's the secondary ground, and that deals with protection and safety of the public. And that is, I can guarantee you, paramount in all Crown Attorneys' minds at all times when we're making decisions.
Mark, can you hear me?
Thank you. I'm being told.
Because we have a lot of people to answer questions, I don't think he can hear me, can he? Yeah. Maybe shorten the presentation a little bit so that we can have our other people speak.
Merely because the person poses a risk of committing an offense or interfering with the administration of justice, it must be a substantial likelihood. So we're looking at
Mark, can you hear me now? Okay. Can you, Mark, if you hear this, can you please shorten the presentation a little bit so we can have the other guest people speak? Thank you.
He won't be listening to the live stream when he's talking, so do you want me to let him go, or do you want me to just mute him? It's your choice.
Yeah, we'll go to another question.
Yeah, okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah. We'll go to a question here if you have. Over here?
I think he was first.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Bryce Atkinson. I'd like to know if any of the chiefs or the councillors were invited to this meeting, and if they weren't, why not? And if they did not accept, who were they?
The chiefs from Sapatoya Cree Nation, Nelson Janai, and Chief Zastri from Wissquisipic had received invitations to attend, but they had chose not to attend.
Majority of the crime committed is by taxpayers or non-taxpayers in this town.
We don't have those stats. We're actually,
Why wouldn't you?
we're working on that.
Are you kidding? After 5 years, you're gonna start working on it now?
Well,
Why wouldn't have
Bryce,
that been done
I-
years ago
I
after
don't-
the first meeting?
I don't know if the RCMP can answer the question, if they know if people live or reside in Swan River or outside. What you're asking is who is really committing the crimes. I don't know if we can even answer that question, can we?
Well, I think we know.
Eh? No.
So, according to the the Star and Times today, there was a murder down at the Legion Park. And that person got 3 years, and he's already done 320 days or whatever it is, and he's gonna be out. Is that not alarming to any of you?
I'm sure it is.
Well, then what are we doing about it?
Well,
Instead of having these meetings 4 or 5 times, and nothing is getting done, not a
Want to
thing.
answer any of that? Just this look on.
And another thing is, was it a good idea to put that CMHA building in the old Bank of Montreal right on Main Street so everybody can see it? And like go behind the old Hunt Motors. They got a no vacancy sign up there because it's too full. Like, this has to change, Lance. I'm sorry.
I agree with you, Bryce. Those are some of the things that are out of our control. I don't know if they want to speak
So
on
whose
that.
control is it?
You're specifically where CMHA has their buildings?
Well, do you think it's a good place to have it there?
I can speak on that a little bit. So I can't necessarily speak exactly where the building should sit, but I can speak to what actually is provided out of that building to maybe correct some of the misconceptions that might
There's
be
6
there.
vehicles, and 6 people are getting paid, I assume, because there's 6
Quite a
vehicles
few
there.
people.
So what is the total salaries going into that place, and what are we seeing out of it?
So I will explain a little bit about the services that we offer out of that site. So it's actually a dual service site. So one half of it is actually a health access site, and the other half is a youth mentorship hub. Both of those are funded by the province, different streams from the province. Youth Mentorship Hub focuses on youth aged 15 to 29 who have had involvement in the child welfare system, who are aging out of care and require additional supports on how to take next steps towards employment, post-secondary, housing, reconnection to culture, and what have you. And so we have, out of that site, we've got service navigators, we have mental health clinician, we have our peer support and recovery college program based in there as well. We have partnerships with various organizations throughout the community and region
Have
to
you seen any
support.
progress?
Yes, absolutely. We've actually been able to, we have actually a really great success story from that. And it involves 3 individuals who were youth. They were going to lose their housing because they did not have the skill set on how to actually live independently. They've been in the system for most of their lives, if not all their lives, and unfortunately the system did not teach them what they needed to be taught. And so they came to CMHA through the Youth Mentorship Hub and through the wraparound care that was able to be provided to them by that site and the staff that are there. We were able to save their housing, which actually boiled down to the fact that they didn't know how to get their garbage to the dump, which in this room might sound a little bit silly, but it's a very real reality to individuals who have never been taught these skills, these basic life skills. And so what was done is our staff went and purchased them garbage cans. I gave up my truck, some of our staff gave up their trucks, and we made multiple dump load runs until we had it all cleaned up. And then we started to educate on basic life skills. And those 3 now are working on employment, on post-secondary, are stably housed, and are contributing to our community in a really healthy and safe way. And so that is something that program aims to provide. The other side of that building is the health access site. And so the health access site was created because we understand that in order to see change and a shift in change of individuals who are struggling right now, they have to have some kind of positive connection. Everyone in this room is where they're at because of a positive connection somewhere in their life. We know that not everyone has been able to have that. And so the idea behind a health access site is that we provide basic needs services which bring individuals into the location in the first place, and then as they access those services, we build intentional relationships and try and build positive connections so that we can support change within that individual. And quite frankly, that's one of the ways that we've seen 86 people housed now in partnership with the Community Housing with Supports team. And so Stacey Grindle, who's our program manager of the 621 site and the services there, and Jackie Lumix, who's our program manager of the CHS and our Echo buildings, work incredibly hard every day, as does their staff, to do this work. And again, I say this work is not short game work. This is long game work. It takes time, but it's important to put the resources and effort in. And so I understand that the community wants to see quick wins. So do we, because there's not a single staff member within CMHA Swan Valley that doesn't live in the Swan Valley. We want to see these wins for our communities as well, but we're mandated and we have certain objectives and outcomes to meet.
I'm sure a lot of people
So
have
I just have one more thing, a few more
Okay.
things though, okay?
Yeah.
And then I'll absolutely listen to more. So with the health access site, we have primary care physicians. So we have a doctor that works out of there. We have nurse practitioner. We have public health, primary health, mental health, clinical support. We have our community mobilization, which is the justice program. We also have, again, because it's co-located, although separate, we have our peer support services, which include the Recovery College. And then we also have some basic needs services such as a commercial kitchen to provide hot meals, laundry services, and shower services for the vulnerable community members. And again, the idea is using those services to draw people in so that we can then connect with them and build those connections so that we can see a shift in change. We cannot see a shift in change or see that next step if we don't have people accessing our services. So we have to provide that. So that's actually the whole purpose behind that building and why it's funded and what it offers.
Okay, well, I'll just go quickly back to what I said before. 3 years for murder. Does anybody up there think that's right? Anybody at that front table? And how do we change that? Because murder is murder, and you should be in jail, I would think, for the rest of your life. But we've got guys out in 3 years.
Okay, well, thank you. You had a question over here?
My name's Greg Aschauer. I'm wondering, does Manitoba have, and if they do have it, do they enforce it, a Civil Forfeiture Act? Because the questions are, is I see the same drug dealers over and over and over again that are in and out of the system, and every 6 to 8 weeks you miraculously have a brand new car. It's crazy, right? And yet I've got people working their entire lives that have never owned a brand new car. So I just wonder, like, is that something that is a thing? I mean, is it, if it is it enforced? And how does something like that work? And if not, why aren't we doing that? Because I think, you know, the incentive to launder money, especially with the drugs in the community, is just too easy, right? So can somebody kind of speak to that as to, you know, how that works, or if it is working or not working at all? Or I know in BC it's become quite a thing, so.
Thank you. I appreciate your question. So yes, to answer your question, just firstly, yes, we do have civil forfeiture in Canada, and actually Manitoba was one of the first jurisdictions to have civil forfeiture in the country. And last year, the government introduced new legislation called the Unexplained Wealth Act, which targets illicit source of wealth and can produce production orders and other legal mechanisms in terms of creating a reverse onus on criminals to prove where their funds and their assets have come from. And so that act was passed last spring. We've actually started now with seeing some of those applications going through the court on the unexplained wealth side, and we've actually been investing in additional resources for our civil property forfeiture unit. And most recently, and just to highlight, BC and Manitoba are considered the toughest jurisdictions in the country with respect to civil forfeiture. And so this Unexplained Wealth Act is a new tool for our civil property forfeiture team, but something we really want to do, and I think to your point, is really target those assets and the money and the other, cars, houses that are associated with criminal activity. So that is definitely a priority for Manitoba Justice and something we're looking to continue pushing down the field. And I think we have seen year-over-year increases in terms of assets seized. We work closely with the RCMP and our other policing partners with respect to asset forfeiture, and so something we really want to be aggressive with going forward. So yes, is the answer to your question.
Thank you. Over there.
Hello, my name is Mark Johnston. This is questions for the two police officers that are here. Just thank you for the statistics on crime and the personnel that are coming in for the police force. Do you currently feel overwhelmed by the amount of crime that's happening in the area? Do you feel you're able to respond in a timely way to calls that are coming in concerning crime and the timing of the calls, maybe late at night? And do you feel you have the ability to investigate and solve crimes in an effective way? And is there anything that we can do to help, like a neighborhood watch program, to help the police in what you're doing? That's my question.
Hello. I guess to answer some of that, do we feel overwhelmed? I've been here for 10 years now, and there has been a big difference, I find, from, I guess, 2015 in November when I first got here. It does relate to homelessness, like we've touched on tonight as well. The crime, a lot of shoplifting, a lot of petty property theft as well. It does make us feel overwhelmed, I guess, with the resource issues that we do have right now too, and that's why, working with the Crown attorneys doing the pre-charge things, a lot of times what happens is people get mad at the catch and release aspect of it. So somebody, will call us and say, hey, our window was broken last night. Somebody stole something. We do our best. We have to kind of prioritize the different calls. I think that's what we have a tough time juggling a lot of times, is dealing with the person's crimes. That's obviously a very big priority compared to a lot of the property stuff that takes a lot of time. And just having the evidence there, so sometimes we're able to get there as quick as we can if we're not busy on another call. However, sometimes we don't get to the calls in a timely basis, because we do police actually a very large area. It's not just the town of Swan River. So I guess that's, we try to make everybody happy and satisfied. We do our best, but sometimes it's just hard to please everybody, I think, with the resource issues that we have. We're a little bit handcuffed at times, I feel. Did I answer most of that question? Yeah, we do have the Citizens on Patrol program, so that's been helpful at times. It's one of those things that, the community's got to come together and try to find different solutions, I guess. It's tough. I mean, we're trying to find them too. We're trying to do the best we can. And I think we have a pretty good rapport with a lot of business owners. I think you guys have I don't know if it's a WhatsApp group type thing that you guys kind of communicate with each other that's helpful. And they come to us with some of these concerns, and we, do our best to hear you guys out and try to come up with, like I said, some different solutions that are, outside the box even, trying to do the best we can with what we have. It's kind of like the motto these days. It's you kind of do more with less, I find, and that can be very tricky. Scott, can you explain that a little bit better, do you think?
Sure, you want to answer?
Yeah, Citizens on Patrol is a program funded through Manitoba Justice. Essentially, There's training, equipment, gear, other informational materials available. I'd be happy to follow up, share some information with the mayor and others as well. And really the concept behind it is mobilized communities with, frankly, for lack of a better term, patrols being conducted by the organization, extra eyes and ears in the community, interplay with the RCMP and the Police Service of Jurisdiction around information, things you're seeing, and really that visible presence in the community. But I did want to just follow up earlier on your question around just sort of the resourcing and other things that are available or can potentially be done at the community level. And so I think at first I would acknowledge, of course, I think from an RCMP perspective, I'm not speaking on behalf of the members, we know nationally there's staffing challenges, vacancy challenges. You heard Staff Sergeant in his presentation go over some of the challenges from a staffing perspective at the detachment level. We know that Manitoba has been one of the most hardest hit districts within, divisions, within the country. And so the provincial government and the Manitoba government have been working very hard with our colleagues at the RCMP in terms of addressing those staffing shortages. And so there's a number of changes that are being discussed at the federal level in terms of prioritizing cadets and other deployments to Manitoba, as well as changes in terms of cadet allocation to divisions that are seeing those larger vacancy rates. And so I did first want to just touch on the fact that one of the main issues we're dealing with here is a staffing challenge. Some of that is related to some of the shutdown of depot during the COVID-19 pandemic and the backlog and filling those vacancies. So the vacancy issue is something that we're working really hard with our colleagues at the RCMP to address, because we know the members in the detachments need more support on the front line to answer those calls for service. But secondary to that, and I think importantly, from a Manitoba Justice perspective, we are trying to look at, from a layered perspective, what are other resources that can be made available to communities to help augment the role of police. And so a couple of those key pieces you touched on: Citizens on Patrol, Neighborhood Watch, activated communities. The Community Safety Officer Program is a program we're very proud of, and I'll just talk about it very briefly. It's a program that's intended to work in tandem with the Police Service of Jurisdiction. It's employed by the municipality, and they are peace officers, and they have broad authorities under provincial legislation to conduct a number of enforcement and other activities in support of public safety in the community. And they are empowered to do traffic, intoxicated persons detentions, mental health detentions and transports, and there's a whole other list of accident enforcement powers they have. We've seen a lot of success in the First Nations, specifically with the First Nations Safety Officer Program, which is now operational in close to 60 First Nations. In municipalities, the City of Winnipeg, the City of Brandon, the City of Portage-la Prairie operate community safety officer programs. And so it's a locally driven and controlled initiative from an enforcement and a visibility perspective that can really help augment and support the police. And some of the benefits that we can see at the local level is the members talked a little bit about all the calls for service and all the issues they're dealing with. And something we're really trying to support are efforts to reduce the time that police are spending, whether that's transporting prisoners, transporting mental health patients to hospitals, sitting in emergency rooms with detained prisoners waiting for medical assessments, appreciating, of course, the broader systemic challenges on the healthcare system. And so this safety officer class of individuals, they have legislative powers that they can do those transports. They can sit at the hospital. They can try and relieve some of those burdens on the police so that they're back doing what they're best at, which is focusing on those repeat, those violent, those offenders that are causing those challenges in your community. So there's a number of things, I think, from a provincial perspective, and we're happy to work with Mayor Jacobson, Council, our RCMP partners, to help support that kind of programming and those initiatives in the community. And so I just wanted to speak a little bit to that. And I think one of the most important factors from our perspective in addressing these broader issues, and I've heard the frustration, and I want you to know from a justice perspective, we hear you. We are as frustrated as you are with what we're seeing in our communities. I think we are seeing, and I know it's not going to come as a relief for you today. I'm not trying to say this, I'm from the government and look at all the great things we're doing for you. But I think we are seeing the trend start to decline. Last year was the first year in over 5 years where we saw a decline in criminal occurrences and criminal offense rates. And so we think with this whole of government approach and what we're trying to do with our colleagues on health, on homelessness, on addictions, as well as on the enforcement and on the justice side, that we are starting to turn the needle in the right direction. But I think the key factor from our perspective are communities that are motivated, communities that are active, and communities that are working collectively to support these efforts. And I think, with the turnout here, we see obviously Swan River, and I think this is my 4th or 5th time to Swan in the last few years. The passion, the frustration, but also I think the support in terms of addressing these issues is a key factor. And so I think I would just open an open offer to the community, but also to Mayor and Council. We are here to try and see how we can support you with any of those initiatives, and look forward to seeing how we can, again, move the needle on some of those pieces. So just thank you for your question.
So I just want to add to what Cole was saying. Yeah, there's sometimes that there's days where they can't get to every call that's coming in, but we still need you to call and report things to us. We need to know what's happening in the community, what's going on, and be able to see any trends that are happening. So don't let that scare you from reporting to us, whether you report it through the office, through 911. There's online reporting that you can do that. And also do some prevention. Take a look around your property and make sure that you secure your items. I know back in the day it was safe to leave your car open with your $1,000 wallet in the visor. We can't do that anymore. You gotta make sure that you lock your things up, make sure it's secure. Get some motion detector lights so that when people come up to your property, they come up, they light up. Look at some bushes on your property. Are they hiding spots for someone to come on there to steal property? So just some prevention like that will go a big way in protecting yourself from theft and that kind of stuff. Does that answer your question? I think there's a little bit there.
Thank you. Question over there.
For Hallistruck, and my question is about harm reduction. I'm frustrated that they're not here tonight. I'd like to know if our town had any say in whether that organization is in our town. I think everybody can agree that it didn't bring harm reduction, it's brought harm to our town. And I'd just like to know if we actually had a choice in that coming here.
I'm probably not really the one to answer that, but if you're asking municipally, no, we had nothing to do with that at all. That's who? Oh, okay. Then we do have someone to speak on it. Okay.
Well, I can't speak specifically to Manitoba harm reduction. I can speak about harm reduction in general. Just to clarify, though, I'm the Assistant Deputy Minister of Homelessness of the Department of Housing, Addiction, and Homelessness. So what that means is, and for homelessness, we know it's a multi-issue. Lots of things contribute to why people are homeless, including addiction, including substance use. And I think, when we think about harm reduction as an evidence-based program to help reduce the harms associated with substance use, why Manitoba has decided to take that position that harm reduction saves lives is just that in itself, that it does save lives. It doesn't mean that it's a perfect solution, and there's a lot of things and a lot of work that we can do to prevent people from becoming problematic substance users to begin with. But the reality is, and I've seen it firsthand, that harm reduction does save lives. And that is everything from naloxone injection that we have been giving and training folks on and utilizing naloxone, to new needle distribution, and I understand, although this is the first time you're probably seeing and hearing from me about some of the issues, I've been listening, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to listen to community issues, and I'm here to support community solutions. So when new needles are distributed as part of the harm reduction plan, I understand and I hear the frustration around, and we don't want folks to be in harm's way. We believe in both reducing harms for the person who are using substances and for folks that are wanting to use community resources in a safe way. And the reality is that it's a demonstrated and a proven evidence-based intervention for folks that are using substances. It does save lives.
Needles given out in this town. They are in every playground. They're in every walk you go on. Our principals, our teachers are scouring the playgrounds. So who is it actually protecting? We had an HIV outbreak here. So are the needles really saving lives? Are we enabling?
I don't know if it's enabling. People will use needles whether they're used or not. So the idea of distributing new needles is that we're trying to reduce the level of because it's a harm reduction practice that's evidence-based to reduce harm.
So what about the kid that gets poked? That didn't make any choice at all, just playing on the playground?
Well,
So let her finish it, please.
I understand that there's frustration. I understand that what we want to do is to talk about harm reduction at a community level and listen deeply. And then come up with solutions that help support your community in a good way around cleanup and around what does that look like? What's happening in your community specifically? You know, the province has contributed money to help support cleanup. It's $45,000 in the last fiscal year. And we're looking at ways that we can bring community around solutions. Like I'm thinking about the person who came out and asked about solutions to homelessness. It does take a community approach. It does take looking at wise practices and evidence-based practices across coast to coast to coast. And it looks like, you know, it does take cross-sectoral, community-based solutions to come together around that. So when it comes to the solutions around the harm reduction piece, and I hear the frustration about it, but I think we have to come together and think about what is best for the entire community, listen deeply, and spend some time around what does that look like as a community. I hear the frustration. I'll bring that frustration back to the minister's office, and we'll deeply think about some more solutions and how we can bring community together around positive solutions around the harm reduction needle disposal solution. Those are solutions and community. Those are things that that help us move forward. And I think those are kind of things that I'm willing to, we're willing to take back. I'm listening to what if you have solutions, and also this is not a one-time event either, right? So it's about listening, ongoing, and thinking about how does the community feel safe. I agree that needles being found in parks and whatnot is not a good thing. It's not safe for anyone, and. Mm-hmm. So what she's saying is, if I could just paraphrase, that it's not just in parks, that she's actually finding needles in her yard. And so once again, we're deeply listening. We're looking at what we can do to listen to what's going on in your community, and then sitting down and thinking about solutions that will help mitigate, resolve, or eliminate the situation as best as possible.
I do have Erin on the call here. She would like to speak on this, if that's okay.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody to go to the mic if you have a question. You all have an opportunity to speak, but please use the mic. Thank you.
Thanks very much for all the questions. Just to introduce myself briefly, I'm Dr. Erin Knight. I'm an addiction physician. So I have a background in family medicine, and I practice predominantly addiction medicine, mostly in Winnipeg, but also support a number of northern communities across the province. I'm the medical director of addiction services at Health Sciences Centre and the medical lead for the Rapid Access to Addiction Medicine clinics. I understand there's been a lot of concern about the rollout of harm reduction. I'll go back to the very initial question about why was a harm reduction organization invited into the community. I presume maybe you're talking about the Manitoba Harm Reduction Network. I'm not going to speak directly for them, but what I will say is that when there are sort of ground-based development of harm reduction services within communities, it's because people need them and because people are already using drugs within the communities. And so then sort of the development of grassroots supports to keep each other safe is a key component of development of harm reduction measures. Now, harm reduction itself is one of the 4 pillars of response to substance use concerns. The other pillars are prevention, treatment, and enforcement. And so we can't have a good response to substance-related harms without addressing all 4 of those pillars. Supply distribution, which is the distribution of needles and other supplies to inject in a more safe way, is one of the key components of a harm reduction initiative. They're also encouraging people to use in less harmful ways, including having availability of safer smoking and safer snorting supplies. But as the previous speaker mentioned briefly, the research really shows us that having access to these types of harm reduction interventions does reduce the harms for the individual and doesn't actually cause any increase in harms for the communities when we study those harms. So it doesn't increase things like crime. It doesn't increase things like drug use within the community. It doesn't increase sort of violent crime or anything like that. All of the really good, robust research has shown that these interventions are all actually really positive. There was also a question specifically around the HIV outbreak. And again, if we compare communities that have harm reduction services available versus communities that don't, the HIV rates who have in communities that either don't have good access to harm reduction or who have had restrictions imposed on their harm reduction services have up to 3 times the rate of HIV, new HIV diagnoses. And so even though we're seeing a surge in cases in the Swan River area, if people didn't have access to harm reduction services, we expect that those numbers would actually be higher. And so it's always difficult to comment in real time on the development of sort of surges in cases, but what we do know very, very clearly from the research in substance use care is that harm reduction interventions like needle distribution are effective in terms of reducing the harms for individuals, including things like HIV and hepatitis C, but also other infections that lead to hospitalizations and use of the healthcare services within the region. The last thing that I'll say about needles and needle distribution is that in situations where there are lots of needles being found within communities, really the response to that is we need to make it easier to have good needle disposal. So having needle disposal boxes available in lots of public places, so that if individuals are using those services, that they can also dispose of them easily. And finally, things like HIV in particular are very poorly transmitted unless people are using the needles again right away. So if you have a needle out in the community and you get a needle stick injury because you accidentally poked yourself while you were picking it up, the risk of actually contracting HIV or an infection related to that is relatively low. I'm not saying it's not scary and it's not something that we want to have happen to folks, but when we look at sort of the balance of risks and harms, that's one thing to also consider is that the risk is much higher when people are having to either share or reuse needles right away, but when it's not sort of immediate, the risk of transmission of those types of viruses is quite low.
Thank you.
Actually, the last thing I'll add, I keep saying it's going to be the last thing, I'll add one more thing, is similar to what my colleagues from the CMHA talked about. One of the really, really big benefits of producing and having available harm reduction services like needle distribution, drug checking, naloxone distribution, is that it gives us an opportunity to connect with people who are using substances. And that connection is really important in terms of identifying what kind of services they need access to and how we can support them. And so one of the outcomes of people using harm reduction services is that oftentimes it's at those connections with the staff that are providing those harm reduction services that they feel safe enough to identify that they want to access treatment, and so it can become a really, really important referral pathway to detox and treatment and medications to help with management of withdrawal symptoms and those types of things.
Our next question.
Froze. My name is Tim Froze, and I've got 3 things that I'd like to bring up tonight. First of all, this lady should take some lessons from BC on harm reduction. Harm reduction saves lives. BC has had their harm reduction probably for, I would say, don't quote me on this, but about 20 years. It has done nothing to stop the increase in drug use or in the mental health of the people. BC is finally getting their common sense together and thinking about putting a program of, not the politically correct word, but forcing people into drug rehabilitation programs because they're in the grip of such a devastating addiction that they can't make choices for themselves anymore. Another thing I would like to bring out is part of the reasons why our crime rate seems to be going down is, I'll give you an example. I was robbed probably 3 times now. About a year ago, these 2 thieves came through my backyard carrying a blue box full of stuff that they'd just stolen from a senior citizen old lady. They dropped their loot in my yard. They took a tool that they had stolen from her, broke open into my shed, and found my shed was way more lucrative. There's hundreds of dollars of things that they stole, like my ice auger and hedge trimmer and a few things. Thank goodness my wife seen that my shed door is open. I went and did some investigative work. I found where these people had taken their loot. I phoned the RCMP, and I give the RCMP credit. They took very good care. But I don't think those 2 crimes were even reported because it's such a pain in the butt to go through all the paperwork and that. They got all my stuff back, and I give credit to the RCMP again. I really enjoyed their help. But now when I get broken into, I'm not going to bother reporting it because it is a big hassle. And a lot of businesses, I was in at a Giant Tiger. Person came, grabbed the jacket off the shelf, walked out with it. Nothing was said. The tellers didn't even want to go out there and bother going after them because they figured they might get beat up, and they never even reported it. Happens all the time. Yeah. Now there's one other thing that I wanted to bring up. What was it? I forget now. It was very important, but I was so worked up already.
We can come back to you, sir. We've got a lot of people waiting with questions.
Okay.
So we're going to go over.
Oh, now I remember what it was.
Quickly.
We're not going to let the Crown attorneys in Manitoba get off this easy with this soft on crime business. About a year ago, there was a there was a trial that was before a judge. The judge wanted to impose a stiffer sentence than what was required because he had looked at the prior offenses of this person. The Crown attorney raised objections and fought the judge on the judge giving them a stiffer sentence. So the blame can go all around.
Hi, I'm just going to make a small statement. My name's Betty Dowman. If someone I knew and loved was on drugs, I don't want them to get, I won't use the word, free needles. I want them off the drugs, the help they need. Like, push for that. Parents, family, we need support of everybody. Don't just give them a bunch of needles and say, I don't care if you do drugs. That's fine. Do drugs. Rob your neighbors. Do whatever. Oh, and if you happen to kill someone, yeah, you might get 36 months. That's bullshit. Excuse my language.
Firstly, a comment. I kind of don't understand why, if a drug addict has to get needles, why they don't have to give back 2 dirty ones to get 2 clean ones. Because somehow I think that'll solve the problem. So I'll just leave that for thought. The second thing, apparently a lot of these people who have great difficulties in life and had hardship, absolutely, the heart goes out to them. They need a safe place. They need a place where the guests can't get in and out, where they can get professional treatment, where they can have doctors, nurses, whomever's in that safe place, or they need to go to jail. So the question to Mr. Ferguson, I'm wondering what the government is doing relative to making more jails.
Thanks for the question. One of the key commitments of the government, as we all know, the Dauphin's correctional facility was closed several years ago. With that being said, one of the key commitments of the government has been to look at the creation of a new justice facility within the city of Dauphin. And so that work is ongoing at this time. There have been a lot of public engagements with the community and with other service providers, looking at what the right structure of that facility is, both from a community justice perspective, but as well as from a custodial and correctional perspective. And so the final report and recommendations aren't complete at this time, but what I would tell you is that from a government perspective, we're looking at, and I think I've talked about a little bit, looking at all the sort of levers within the province's ability to pull. I can say to you all today, and again, I'm not diminishing your frustration because I hear it. We have more people in custody today than any time we've had in the last 10 years. But we recognize that our system is reaching its capacity in terms of our ability to manage that cohort of offenders. And so that's one of the key pieces that's being looked at as part of the Dauphin Center for Justice project is additional capacity that's needed within the system. And so that's a key piece that we're looking at. And I think undoubtedly, you've heard us talk about the additional police units that we're trying to support in the province. Within the last 2 years, we have funded an additional, I work for the department, so just to be clear, I'm not at the political level. The Manitoba government has funded an additional 200, close to 200 police officers. And so we know that as we see changes to bail and some of the criminal code changes that we're looking to see, as we see more enforcement, that means we need more capacity to manage those offenders, both from a community-based monitoring perspective, as well as from a custodial perspective. And so I think that's something we're really attuned to, and I appreciate the question, and something we're looking at as part of the Dauphin Center for Justice project.
Over here.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, Lance, right at the beginning of this meeting, said mayors and councillors have no power. Why are we paying mayors and councillors that have no power? second thing that James stated, kids in the system are coming out without the ability to cope with real life. Whose fault is that? Is it our fault or is it your fault? Where's mom and dad? What kind of a system are we putting these kids into? Our needles, you gave out, I got 500 needles because I asked for them. I also got a letter from Prairie Mountain Health stating I was not allowed to have any more needles. My needles went to 2 diabetic people. And the Prairie Mountain Health took the time to write me a letter telling me that if I entered harm reduction again and asked for needles, I would not be allowed to have them. Now, let's just wait, Lance, just wait. That doctor up there just said that needles need to be discarded properly. We have needles bins all over our town, and we are still finding needles. She's full of crap. And I will tell you something else. RCMP get a rap for not doing their job, but I happen to know a little bit more about the RCMP than maybe some of the rest of you around here, and maybe I don't know as much as some. But I'll tell you what, the RCMP are trying. Most of them are trying. But we had an episode in Minnetonka where the RCMP were called to watch a perfectly nonviolent municipal council meeting, sitting outside with 2 RCMP cruisers. Now you tell me what we are doing. We are reporting things that are not. They're nothing that the RCMP should be doing. Right now we have RCMP in BC guarding an ostrich farm. There could be RCMP members right here that could be out there getting paid big money when there's a lack right here in this town. I'm not saying there's RCMP members out there. What I'm saying is, where is our money going? Council needs to find out. And you need to have the power to find out. And you do have the power. And nice slide off, Lance. Nice slide off on not answering whether harm reduction was your choice. Nice. Because we know it was.
Okay, I think you've asked several questions in your comments there. The first one when you talk about is power. What is what municipalities or what kind of powers that they have? And most people know, if they've ever sat on council, what their power is. Municipalities don't carry a lot of power. They have the power of taxation as far as taxing for services like street cleaning, lights, fire protection, policing, and so forth. We create bylaws within our own municipalities and so on. All municipalities have that. But when you talk about we have power about saying harm reduction could be here, or you can have CMHA here, or we can create curfews, or we can kick people out of the community, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. We do not have the power to do that. And the province doesn't give us that power to do that. In fact, some of that stuff is not even constitutional, period. So when you mention the question about harm reduction, council last year, if you even remember, you can watch it on video, we had harm reduction come and do a presentation to us. Yeah. We learned a lot of stuff about harm reduction at that time, including the distribution of 500,000 needles, which we were all appalled about that. We brought that to light. Council did not know about that. Council didn't say, hey, we want harm reduction. There's groups that brought that to the community, and I'll let harm reduction of the province speak on that. We brought that to light. In fact, our council even has resolutions that we brought to the floor of the AMM
in opposition of needles and how they're distributed in the community. We even suggested, I think it was brought up by Councillor White just a little while ago, that why don't they have a return policy where you have to bring your needle back if you want to have another needle, or maybe even say, we'll give you 10 cents if you bring back your needle. We have been in all complete I wouldn't say, well, opposition, yes, on how it's done right now. It has to change. I don't agree with everything that it is, what it is right now, but we can't change that. We can lobby and we can do whatever we can. I spoke with the minister in the springtime, and I told her what I was not happy about harm reduction and needle distribution. She told me clearly that they were going to continue on with the program and how it is. And I don't want to say that she's, you know, she doesn't care what we say, but they believe that this program is working. I'm not going to comment anymore on harm reduction because that is another department within the government itself. But as far as what we can do, what we can do is bring your message that you bring to us to the government, to the ministers. I will be seeing cabinet in 2 days. I'll have my opportunity to speak with the minister and bring those messages forward. Now, on your other questions, I think that we should let them answer the questions if it's RCMP. And yeah, RCMP are doing an outstanding job in our community. I totally agree with you. And we support them every day. But as far as your other questions go, and I don't remember them all, but I think we should let the proper people respond to them.
With respect to the CFS component, I'll be very honest, I can't speak to why all the kids end up in care. The success story that, no, I understand, I'm just getting, but the success story that I shared, I can say that those 3 kids' parents passed away, and that's how they ended up in the system. Does the system have issues and flaws? Absolutely. I think we see that on the daily, and I think there's a lot of hardworking people in the system trying to do good, and I think there's a lot of siloed approaches and processes and procedures within the system that prevent as much good as possible to happen. And then we see programs like the Youth Mentorship Hub get implemented in communities like Swan River to try and see more positive good come from some of the bad. So that's kind of what I can speak to on that. I just want to touch on harm reduction. There's a lot of misconception about harm reduction with CMHA, and so I just want to speak to that. CMHA does not do needle distribution. We operate on harm reduction, so every program that we offer is actually within the spectrum of harm reduction. Falls prevention is harm reduction, our senior supports is harm reduction, housing is harm reduction, access to food security is harm reduction, peer support, recovery college, all of that, the youth mentorship, the connection to culture, it's actually all classified as harm reduction. The community tends to use the word harm reduction to explain the needle distribution piece and the safe usage supplies, and I think that's where a lot of the frustrations are around. So I just want to kind of clarify some of that. Our partner agencies that we have partnerships with to provide our services and to staff some of our health access site and all that kind of stuff, those services absolutely provide needle distribution, and that's within their mandate to do that. And so I just want to state that, and I'm not doing so to cop out of anything. We understand that there's significant frustrations around that, and there's significant challenges. And we're the first to admit that. We're sitting at the Sharps committee table every meeting, asking the questions, what can we do, what can be done, what is the plan, what is going to get done. There are lots of people that are invited to that meeting that don't show up, and I think that's a problem. And so I think when we talk about Sharps disposal and distribution of needles, usage supplies, that sort of thing, while I fully understand the frustrations, and I tell you honestly that we share those frustrations on a regular, the challenges that are associated with the program itself and the need for the program are community challenges. And I say this constantly. we cannot see any change if the community does not come together to determine what that change can look like. And it's going to take many various avenues because there's no one size fits all here. And so as CMHA, we continue to support the community with cleanups, with doing whatever we can to make our community more safe, because we feel like we need to be good partners in this community, and we need to ensure that if we're going to operate here and own the community, then we have to own some of this as well, regardless if we do the program or not. And so that's the mindset I truly believe that we need to leave this with, because again, if it's one person's responsibility or another, at the end of the day, this is our community, and we need to work together to see the solutions.
You heard the whole group say they want the needles gone.
Okay, we're going to have to go to the other side. We've got lots of questions, so
Yeah.
thank you very much. Go ahead.
Hello. Hi, my name is Ryan Immerker. First of all, I don't even know where to start. I'm kind of surprised by the crowd, because a lot of people I talked to didn't want to come because they're kind of tired of coming to these meetings and listening to bureaucrats talk in circles all night. Because that's what I'm seeing happen here. Like, and I probably won't come to another one just because we're not really solving anything. Everyone's just standing around having a bit of a bitch session, and then, well, I guess Mark Twain put it best. There's lies, damn lies, and then there's statistics. And I know this through my business, how statistics work. And if your statistics are that good and everything's working so well, then why are we here meeting together and complaining about all this? It's not working. None of what you're saying is working, because we can pull our heads out of our butts and we can look around our community and we understand that things are getting worse. Nothing is getting better. I don't care what your statistics tell you. I'm in the business of statistics and I know how they work. We have a research company, and I don't want to give you the nuances of it, but people can cherry pick data, and that's the reality, to make their egos feel better about their dumb decisions. And I'm a business owner here. You can't have people look down Main Street, for Christ's sake. All the stores are closed. How can you run a business when you're getting robbed every goddamn day? Tell me that. If I'm Kent, Maine, and I own Conrad's grocery store, and the deal is if I steal under $100, I go free. Well, maybe that's his net profit for the day. How can we have a community without proper businesses, and everyone's getting robbed day after day, and you just give up? Just take it. How is that back to your statistics? The crime's down. You know why? Because no one's reporting on it. Because everyone's tired of it. This is a good community, and this has got a bones of a successful place. We have a good school, we've got a good hospital. I could sell this community to anybody, except it's a disaster when it comes to crime. So we come to these meetings, and we sit and we talk in circles. My statistics, I'm 96% success rate, this and that. It's not working, obviously, because it's not getting better. We don't need the statistics. We have the proof on Main Street.
Just to go back a little bit, I'm not from your community, but the idea of the meeting tonight was to hear exactly what we were hearing. You're here, it's an opportunity to speak. What I heard from the people up front, they weren't up here, they were here for the purpose of bringing this back to where it has to go back, but they need your support. They have that now. That's what I've observed tonight, that they have your support. There's a problem out there, and these people here will take it back. Well, we're not gonna solve it sitting at home, closing our stores. I think we've got to keep working at it, and you're doing that. Okay, the next one over there.
My name is Murray Mullen. I'm a resident of Swan River. I have a question for James Wigley. How many staff members does Canadian Mental Health, the Swan Valley branch, have employed with them currently?
Are you meaning as far as our region in full, or just in the community?
Just in Swan River.
Okay, so just in Swan River, that's 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, about 18 staff across all programs, about 18 staff across all programs.
And does that 18 staff, now does that include your support staff as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So in 2018, there was about 5 to 10 employees in Canadian mental health. So in 7 years, you have doubled the staff.
So actually, as a region, when I first came in 7 years ago, this month actually, there were 9 staff within our entire region. Our region has now grown, actually doubled in size, and we have 65 staff across our region.
So what I'm getting at is, do you think that you can justify the increase in employees and programs, and if they're actually benefiting our community as a whole? I would say from the response tonight is absolutely no. And so one of the things that I would like to know is, and we get back to the harm reduction and the needle program. We didn't ask for that. That was brought in by Canadian Mental Health or whoever, or the province or whatever. Other communities in the province do not have this. Communities such as Roblin, Minnedosa, they don't have harm reduction programs. And these communities do not have problems like Swan River has. So you can, again, statistics, you can say the statistics are working. They're not. And so how do we get rid of it? We don't want them. We don't want the harm reduction program. We want to be like the other communities that don't have it. So as a community, we're trying to figure out things. How do we go about? Do we need a plebiscite with a majority of people to get rid of it? Or how do we get rid of it?
Yeah. So I'll go back and just say that, again, like CMHA does not have the needle distribution program. We don't do harm reduction in that sense. That is a question, and unfortunately they're not here tonight, but that is a question for Prairie Mountain Health or the Manitoba Harm Reduction Network. Prairie Mountain Health owns the harm reduction program ultimately because it's a health-based program, so they're funded for it. So that is a question that has to go to Prairie Mountain Health, and they're not here on the panel tonight. I see that they've declined.
How convenient.
As far as, do I believe strongly that our services are making a difference for the community? Absolutely I do. I might be biased because I run the organization, but at the same time, regardless of what we want to listen to as far as stats go, again, I go back to our stats with Jackie's program through the Community Housing with Supports, and the fact that in 2 years we've housed 86 people. And if we didn't do that, that would be 86 more people that Swan River could very well have on the streets, causing more additional troubles. The other thing I want to say to that is, again, the issue that we're seeing is that while we've been able to successfully house 86 people and keep them housed, connect them to culture, connect them to employment, post-secondary and so forth, where they're contributing to our community in a really healthy and safe way, we've also seen a huge increase in need. And so while we're funded for an actual caseload of about 36 maybe, so a caseload of 35, and currently we have 48 on the caseload. And we have a wait list in our Echo building of 147 people. That's 147 people waiting to get into our own buildings that we own and operate. There's larger challenge, like the challenge is so much larger than even the resource that we have. But at the same time, the staff, Jackie, Stacy, her staff, all the staff across our region are going to work every day and doing their absolute best to try and make a difference for the people and for the community. And we're doing what we can.
I have one other question, and this goes to our mayor and council. Our population of Swan River is 4,049, and I'm going to talk some statistics. According to the latest census. James mentioned about the homeless people, so I used a number of about approximately 120, which equates to about 3% of our population in the town. We also heard that there was 9 or 10 of the homeless or people that were constantly committing crimes in our community. That works out to 0.25 of 1% of our community. They're holding us hostage because we have nothing that we can do. The mayor says we can't do anything. I went to a meeting a couple of weeks ago and talked to the council off the record, and I made a proposal. One of the things that I had suggested, First Nations bands pass a band council resolution to evict any band member from their band or reserve who may not follow their laws or their rules. However, it seems that as a municipality, we have no recourse. I believe that our town council needs to show that they are listening to our concerns, and they should pass a bylaw that allows the people who do not abide to the bylaws of our community to be evicted. I have been told that this is against the Charter of Rights. However, since when does the provincial or federal government follow the Charter? Do you recall bank accounts being frozen in regards to the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa? 2.5 years later, they were told to be unconstitutional, but nothing happens. If it takes 2.5 years to find our community bylaws unconstitutional, we will have our community back by then. So I'm asking the town council to pass a bylaw, and I was told that it's unconstitutional. Let somebody take us to court. By that time, the way the court system works, the way if it takes 2.5 years, we'll have those people out of our community because they're not contributing and they're not doing anything for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. My name's David Gray. I come from Swan River. I've been in the criminal justice system for about 45 years as a Crown. I remember Cole when he was a recruit, actually, in Thompson, and Will from Churchill. And I was pretty renowned as a pretty aggressive Crown attorney, as I am a pretty aggressive defense attorney. I just want to talk about the meeting firstly. There are problems with everything I think about the meeting. An agenda isn't a list of speakers, firstly, and so it's totally mislabeled. And we have answers going on, and I wanted to comment on something Ryan said, which is that we have a lot of people who gave lengthy answers. My former colleague Mark went on about 20 minutes about bail. And so I've got some questions for individuals to sort of, and I really want direct answers. They're very simple, not lengthy answers about what's occurred. And I'm not going to be asking James or any of his crew. They've already answered enough questions. But for instance, is Mark still available? So Mark, I've got a series of 3 questions, because we can all complain about the criminal justice system and the way it works. But our criminal justice system is based on advocacy and 2 people taking their positions. And so, and I know I'm not as smart as you or most of the people here, but I don't remember section 515.6, which is the reverse onus section, being repealed. So if you can remind me when that occurred, I'd be happy about that. The second question for you is, who makes the determination of when we oppose bail as a policy unit? And I'm going to suggest it's the Assistant Deputy Minister who's in charge of prosecutions. And thirdly, who makes the determination on individual cases and individual crowns? Now, I opposed a lot of bails when I was Crown. I was moderately successful at it. And when people breach, so when people talk about this revolving door, the reality is that if you are on a release other than an undertaking, and an undertaking comes only from police and it's usually minor matters, the onus is on the accused to show why they should be released. And it strikes me that people bandy about terms without really knowing what they're saying. And that, Mark, if you can just confirm that those things exist, so we can get back to a different level, because part of the problem with the meeting is we get into this whole blame thing where it's this problem or that problem. And if the solution to this were easy, we'd already have solved it. And if we don't quit looking to each other and blaming and creating that distinction, I think the problem never goes away. So, Mark, if you want to respond, and then I've just got a few other questions for a couple other people, just to point out a couple of things. And when we're done that, then I really, Lance, you're going to be the last, so just...
Can we connect with Mark?
Good evening, David. It's a pleasure to see you. In terms of your questions, the reverse onus position, you're absolutely correct. It's not repealed. Of course, 515 sub 16, is not repealed, and we know that recently, this past December, the federal government has increased some reverse onus positions. Number two, who makes decisions about bails? I take it that you're talking about broad policy decisions, and that's the Minister of Justice dictates broad policy decisions. I believe it was this past February, there were some revisions in terms of bail policy and considerations. And that's publicly available online. And who makes individual decisions in individual cases? Well, of course, that's the lawyers, the Crown attorneys, and they'll take into account a number of factors like we've already talked about.
In terms of the issues, just going to Manitoba Justice. Because one of the issues that, and a lot of people ask questions about, oh please, yeah, thank you. A lot of people ask questions about what are the statistics on that and what are the statistics of that. And I'm going to ask you, I think that Manitoba Justice, and there's a policy unit whose specific job it is to design statistic collection and to create those things. Am I wrong, or is that changed? Glenn Reed used to handle that unit, so that's why I'm pretty sure that's the case. Still the case? Okay, so what research processes has the province of Manitoba instituted to determine causes of crime, sources of crime, effective interventions, in terms of collection of data and the determination of successful results? Are there any new policies or programs that you've done to do that? Based on, which I think you've already said, you've heard these concerns across Manitoba. So I'm assuming you're now creating new data collection systems, are you?
It will just take a couple of seconds. He's going to reply here.
Who? That's Mark.
The policy division, David, is completely different from prosecution service.
Connect to the front, please.
Yeah, it's on.
Yes, so there is a unit within Manitoba Justice responsible for collecting system-wide data and other data sets and informing broader policy within the department.
Questions that were asked here are important and reasonable questions, and the data should exist.
Specifically, yes, generally, yeah.
Well, I'm not going to go through every one of the people who've talked and asked.
But yes, we are tracking outcomes.
So you are.
Data,
so
yeah.
you have all of that data?
The unit has data, yes.
No, I know it has data, otherwise it wouldn't exist. What I'm asking you is the questions about locations of crime, sources of crime, is that data being collected, and is it available?
Locations of crime and sources of crime, those data sets are collected in different ways. And so the police, so for the Winnipeg Police Service, for example, they have heat maps, crime maps. Is the Department of Justice specifically tracking all crimes that occur in the province?
Okay.
Sorry,
what you're doing is exactly what the problem with the whole meeting is. It's a simple question. Either you are or aren't collecting data that would answer the questions here, and talking generally, in generalities, and this applies to every one of the responders. One of the problems is that people ask direct questions, and they didn't get direct answers. And if you don't give direct answers, it's going to create a problem. And the problem is that people tend then not to believe that the system cares or is going to fix itself. And if you don't collect data that will answer the questions, how will you ever be able to answer them?
Okay, well, I apologize if you think I'm dancing around the question, but yes, we are tracking data around a whole number of these indicators and issues specifically.
So all of the questions that people asked, next time, somebody will be able to answer them. Is that what you're saying? I just want to make clear so that next time, if we have a meeting and you come again, somebody can say, well, we asked this question last time. Do you have an answer now? Yes or no?
Yes.
Good, thank you. The last thing I'm going to ask you is that there's an incredible funding difference between towns and rural municipalities in Manitoba in terms of policing. It creates a particular onus for the residents of Swan River who pay 85% of the policing. Is it still 85%, Lance? Yeah, as opposed to 15% in the RM, which is why in Alberta, for instance, Wood Buffalo, Fort McMurray, left being a city of 90,000, became part of Wood Buffalo. So the province paid the greater share. Is there some philosophical reason that small towns particularly should pay 85% of the cost, and RMs, and we have lots of residents who live just outside of the town, pay 15% for policing costs?
That's a good question.
I know it's a good question. Do you have an answer?
RMs are not currently directly billed for policing in this province. The Police Service Act sets out the requirements, which is based on the historical funding of towns and cities versus rural areas.
And the question was, do you have a philosophical basis for that, other than the fact that it's historically been done? And do you have any plans or thought, or has there been anything sent up the chain that says we're going to address this? Yes or no?
Actually, the Minister of Justice has spoken publicly about the police funding model in the province. We're currently engaged in a review of the police funding model. We're directly engaged with the Association of Municipalities on that work and looking at the right sizing of the rural municipality, the hub communities, and the communities that are most affected by policing costs today. Yes.
So, and when would we expect that to be decided?
I think I would have to take that back to the minister, obviously, for their consideration in terms of the policy recommendations that we're making broadly.
So you'll be able to funnel that to us through the mayor?
Of course.
Excellent, thank you. Just for the police, when you deal with occurrences, it's misleading, and I think you know that. Secondly, you have the July and August stats. I know you do. They don't have them tracked the way they in that, but you keep them internally. And I'm just wondering why you wouldn't share those. And B, in terms of the catch and release piece, you listed a huge number of occurrences for those individuals. But the reality is that there's a relatively small number of charges that you reflected. I think I know the answer. In fact, I'm positive I know the answer, but could you tell us why?
So for the stats that I collected from here, I actually reached out to analysts, and they do it quarterly. So that's why they didn't have July and August stats ready for me for this presentation. So our quarter would be July, August, and September.
But you used to provide council a monthly report because you keep them manually internally, and you have them available, correct?
That's correct. But
so you chose not to bring them.
You're right. I tried to minimize what we brought here and gave a quick overview of what's going on, as opposed to taking up a lot of time going over all the statistics from the attachment. So I just want a quick overview. It's not the full scope of everything that's going on, but it's just a brief overview of what's happening.
And again, it was not about that, because I actually think the RCMP do a pretty spectacular job. They're my favorite policing service to deal with across the province.
Thanks.
They were, you could trust them, and they were hardworking generally.
Yeah.
Sometimes they made mistakes, but everybody does. Which brings us to town council. Einstein once said...
Sorry, but we're going to have to move on because we've got a lot of people waiting. Yeah. It's not meant to have a debate here. We've heard his comments. I think I'm going to move on to the next speaker. Thank you. Go ahead. You've had about 15 minutes. That's and as a moderator, I'm asking the next speaker to speak. Thank you.
My name's Ainsley White. I've been in town for a year and a half now. I wanted to echo some other comments about the statistics with the lowered crime rate. I think the fact that some businesses are now locking their doors, the increase of bars, and all the other protections that they've needed to put in place, as well as the lack of reporting, would all be contributing to those skewed statistics, as we're spoken about. As far as bylaws and the opportunity for council to create bylaws that would positively affect our criminal activity, are there any bylaws that we could lean on or impose that would assist us right now that would be in the power of council, such as possibly reducing the availability of weapons, and I use the word weapons loosely. They could be hunting items. However, I did see an individual personally outside the TD Bank at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon while driving my daughter to work with a huge machete in his sweats. I later learned that I can go buy a machete. They're $19.99, and I just have to fill out a form. Oh, I thought Mayor may be answering one of my... my secondary question to the bylaw would be that in 2022, during the last town hall, there was a frequently asked question such as, does the town of Swan River have any plans to crack down on slum landlords and the issues that eventually come along with that situation? The answer is the town of Swan River is exploring different bylaw amendments and revisions for enforcement so that all landlords will be forced to meet a standard. Landlords will be motivated to keep their properties in better condition and not let it become dilapidated. This, of course, comes at a cost to enforce. Have there been any developments with that initiative for those that are housing some of the criminals we're facing? This question is directly for the mayor.
I'm not that tall. Thank you for the question, Ainsley. I'll address the bylaw one that you're asking about with landlords. Yes, town has researched and enacted a bylaw, and it's called like the unsightly properties bylaw, and it's bylaw number 6/2023. And it's not only towards landlords, it's to all properties in the town that keeps all properties under proper conditions so that they're not unsightly, that they're under certain, how do you say, states of repair, that there's the grass is not dirty, there's not, it's a whole encompassing bylaw that we've sent through the review. It's been utilized quite a bit in the last year. Right now, this year, we've used it well over 100 times. Where we've entered properties and the designated officer has assessed the properties, and if there's any, and that's all based on either written complaints or verbal complaints to the office to a certain property. So the designated officer, which is our bylaw officer, enters those properties, makes an assessment based on certain criteria, and so that it's not just what the whim of the day is, so that it's looked at fairly and equitably across all properties in the town. And then either if it's in deficiency of the bylaw, then there's some orders that the person has to make the corrections with a timeline, and then advised of the penalties should they choose not to do
Just
that.
to be more direct,
So-
So yeah, I'm specifically speaking to the 2022 meeting where this was specific to the crackdown on slum landlords. In my area, there's specific houses that are very obviously used only for those using drugs or in this crime community.
Right.
I've seen them sitting on the front step shooting up drugs. I've never seen that before. Those are slumlord residences. There's washing machines and all kinds of things all over the property. I am not concerned whatsoever with how high somebody's grass is. I'm specifically speaking to the slumlord situation. And if we have bylaws to ensure that their homes are insured, that they are available for a phone call and will answer and will speak to what's happening at their property at any given time.
So again, I go back to this is the bylaw that we do use, and we do address some of the problematic landlords that do house individuals that are problems to the community. The problem is that we have to have a leg to stand on, or what we call spheres of jurisdiction of what we legally can do and enforce that's not counter or appealed by the individual and then thrown out by the court system. So we only have a very limited amount of ability to address certain things, and what council has chosen that has been proven effective, especially in the last 6 months to a year, is that we've used the property standards bylaw where we can address the property and address the concerns that are going on with that. And that's where we've had, like, for example, the White House. That was addressed partly through that, and we get buildings condemned. And then it goes through the process of remediating the building to get it back into a habitable state.
So I would say we haven't then specifically addressed the slumlords or aggressively gone that route to identify those properties and solve that specific route then.
Okay, well, when you identify someone as a slumlord, it gets very tricky that we may know what they are or stuff like that, but under legal tenses, I can't just say someone's a slumlord because of what they're doing. They have to be breaking certain laws that we can enforce.
So if we as the community were to report things that we saw that were breaking of rules where the police could attend, would that assist?
Very much so, yes.
And to speak...
Sure, why not? It's like a Drew Carey show. Safer Community and Neighborhoods Act. How many prosecutions were made under that act regarding that bylaw? Do we have those numbers? Anyone on the panel? Only thing here, questions and answers do matter.
Will, do we have those numbers?
Yes, I know it's a provincial legislation, it's a provincial act, but were there any charges charged under this act? Does the town know? Does the province know?
Yeah, the
Does
province is
anybody
telling us they would have to get back to us. I know there was some, I don't have the exact number, but I know the Safer Communities Act members have been in our community a number of times. That has resulted in a number of charges and a number of these slumlord homes shut down with the cooperation of public health and our bylaw officers, along with the Office of the Fire Commissioner, where they brought all these agencies together to address the issues. But the exact number off the top of my head, I don't have that right now. We can get the Safer Communities Act representatives to forward us that information, and we can get that back to you. But yes, they have been in our community. Yes, they have been charging people, and they are one of our most effective tools in closing down some of these homes.
Okay, perfect. So we know they've been charged, and we're going to hear on the prosecutions under that act at the next meeting. If there's a next meeting. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I didn't mean to take away from the turn. I just had something passed to me and was a question that wanted to get asked. I'll wait my turn.
Is there a question over there?
Oh, I thought it was my turn.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll be a while. Maybe.
You can jump in on mine. Okay, 2 comments and a couple questions. So from my own observations, 2 comments. Harm reduction isn't working at all. It is causing more safety for our children specifically. 7 years old, my daughter came home from playing at the neighbors with 2 smaller, younger children. They were almost pricked with an uncapped needle that was in a pile of leaves that kids are playing in the fall. Luckily, I had taught her, so she kept everybody safe. Fast forward to high school, every rugby practice, every rugby game, the students are forced to go out and pan that field to make sure that it is safe of any paraphernalia left behind. Again, who's this helping? It's not helping the community. I myself, just this spring, was pulling a bag of soil off of a stack of soil this high at a business in town and had 30 needles fall out on me. Who's that helping? Not the people who went and got the needles, because they're clearly not using them. They've stashed them away just to be forgotten about. So that's my comment on harm reduction. We need safe injection sites. What we're doing isn't helping, it's causing a risk for everybody. This one just came up with the slumlord thing. I had a home across the back alley from me for years that was known to be occupied by addicts and dealers. Thankfully, it burnt down a few years ago now, but it took months before the little camper trailer that had been parked there was removed from the property. I watched daily as addicts were breaking into this trailer to shoot up and get high and sleep it off for a few hours and then walk out. That bylaw isn't working. FYI, a house burns down, there is a bylaw that they have to have it removed or a plan submitted to the town within a certain amount of time. I found that out from an RCMP member that was my neighbor at the time. 2 questions. I think we could all safely say that Swan River is deemed a hub for multiple different reasons: education, healthcare, policing. So at a provincial level, is there anything that we're looking at to open up a facility for people in this hub to help treat addictions? Brandon has Parkwood, St. Rose has Willard Munson House. So curious if there's anything that's going to be looked at as Swan River being a rather large hub. Second question, and I give credit to the police officers. You guys are running off your feet, like you guys are doing what you can. So this isn't meant to criticize, it's more just for information. What are the evening staffing levels when full staff complements, like when you're fully staffed, and what are the current evening staffing levels with the current vacancies? I take my dog to the dog park nightly, anywhere between 9 and midnight, and I see all sorts of stuff every single night. It's the same 3 to 5 people. I've dubbed them the bicycle bandits because they're on bicycles. They are the same people every time. One has a very identical light on their bike, another has a very identical wagon they pull behind. I see them come from all directions, and they convene in the arena area there in the parking lot, and then they scatter. I watch it every night. I've reported it to some people that I know that are part of the Citizens on Patrol, because I know that they have their group watch thing, so I do. But it's gotten to the point where I don't even bother because it's happening every night. I've seen them going through my neighbors' yards while I'm sitting there, and so I will pick up the phone and contact my neighbor and say, hey, you got people in your yard. So it's a challenge, but I'd be curious to know what the evening staffing complement currently is with the vacancies and what it's supposed to be when fully staffed. And as a single woman who lives alone, what can I do to protect myself in the event that somebody breaks into my house? Am I sitting there like an easy target? Because I've been told I'm not allowed to use any type of reasonable force to protect myself in those moments.
Just in terms of, I guess,
Can you lift the microphone up there, Cole, please?
Okay, sorry.
Just lift the whole thing up if you can.
Is that a little better? Okay. Just in terms of staffing levels, it kind of ranges, to be honest with you. Nightly, I would say it could range honestly from 2 to 5 members. Yeah, it's not ideal, obviously, but that's all we can really do at this point. I think typically when I first got here, I mentioned it a little earlier tonight. I think 10 years ago, we had a big influx of members at that time. I think actually at one point there was 18 constables. So I remember working night shifts back then. There was sometimes on a Monday, Tuesday night even, there was 6 or 7. That just doesn't happen anymore, unfortunately. Do we need it? I would say yes, but I guess resource-wise, all throughout the country, we're not the only place, right, that's short-staffed and vacant with different positions. And in regards to that, did that answer your question in regards to? Yeah, the schedule does fluctuate. Sometimes we do change it annually, but typically right now, yeah, it's I'm going to say roughly 2 to 3 weekends. We try to staff more. If we were, I guess, flux, I don't know the exact numbers. We're 3 short right now. You could probably tack on another 1 or 2, I guess, on a nightly basis. A night shift typically ranges from 5 until, sometimes 5 a.m. It just depends. There is an on-call period as well. So we change our schedule based on calls for service, that kind of thing. There are obviously calls out all throughout the 24-hour period. And there's not, some months it fluctuates. There's a series of calls at midnight. Sometimes it's 4 a.m. Sometimes it's 5, 6 p.m. It's not really consistent, to be honest. And in regards, I think you had another portion of that question about what to do to protect yourself. That's a tough one for me to really answer. Yeah, I'm gonna pass that one on to Scott, to be honest.
Yeah. So I know it's been in the news recently about the things down in Ontario where somebody's being charged because they BF somebody come in the house. The criminal code says you're allowed to use as much force as necessary to protect yourself. You'll have to determine what that is. We work on the same thing, so if we go above beyond, that's when we get investigated as well and could be charged, right? So that's the best I can tell you. If you go overboard, what's reasonable? If somebody just kind of walks in your backyard and you go take them with a big aluminum bat, I think that's excessive, right? So, yeah, you're allowed to protect yourself with as much force as you deem necessary to make sure that you're safe. That's about as clear as we can be.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Roger. I'm not sure how much time I'll have because it appears that it varies upon the questions that are asked at the meeting here today. But correct me if I'm wrong, this meeting was advertised Town of Swan River ratepayers. Correct? Yep. So that would mean
The town of Swan River is putting this meeting on, and the only persons that should be in this room are ratepayers. Correct? It would make sense. I've chaired a lot of meetings. I've hosted a lot of meetings. Oh, by the way, Peter Fleming. I'm Regional Executive Officer with the Manitoba Métis Federation. My portfolio is natural resources. I'm the minister of that portfolio. I'm also the president of the Albert Chartrand Friendship Center here in Swan River, and I'm the president of the Albert Chartrand Friendship Center Housing Corporation. I'll talk a little bit more about some of those. Oh, thank you. I first wanted to establish who was putting this meeting on and the invitees to the meeting. I wanted to remind the putter-oners, town of Swan River, that you're missing a lot of the population that needs to be here. You're missing renters, you're missing low income, you're missing homelessness. How can you sit up there and talk about persons that aren't here? It's like you have very little idea in what they need, and you're not willing to engage with them. But I'll save more of that for my presentation shortly, and thank you. I want to remind you, and we've established that this is the town of Swan River's meeting, and Roger is the moderator. The town of Swan River, you had a gentleman up here previous to myself, ask some very good questions. He seemed to have very good audience engagement. Valid questions, short, to the point, answered. He had a few more questions. As a town, being responsible to these ratepayers who wanted to hear his questions, you can ask the moderator, I'm not telling you what to do, but you can ask the moderator if he'd like to bring this gentleman up and ask those questions of yourselves, unless there's maybe something you don't want to hear or a question he wants to ask that you don't want to have be asked. So I'll just take this time. Does the Swan River, would they like to have this gentleman come up, or shall I continue?
We want to let other people speak. He can come back if he wants to, but, you know, time is time.
Perfect. Okay. There you have it. You guys can't hear his questions unless there's time. Lance, where should I start? I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed. My executive director, Leslie Semblick, was sent an invitation to this event just to come and, you know, sent to her personal email. It was not sent to the Friendship Center. I would ask you what the Friendship Center does in this town. Can you answer that question? Because I can. I have staff here. We have a lot of staff here with us today. We also have a lot of staff within the Northwest Métis Council, within the Manitoba Métis Federation. We have 3 persons here today with us from opioid awareness. We have pamphlets, we have booklets. We go around to all the different communities. We've been in Swan River several times, sharing awareness. We had a lady up here earlier today. She didn't want her family getting needles. She wanted to provide them some help. That's the things that the Manitoba Métis Federation has. That's the types of services that we have. And we have around the region, the Northwest region, which runs right from Novra all the way to McCurry down to Russell and along the border. Oh, those are all the pamphlets. Actually, some of the pamphlets that the opioid team hands out. So they work with the families, they work with communities, caregivers, and I just wanted to give them a shout out. They're here from Dauphin. Thank you for coming from Dauphin to those staff. So I wear quite a few hats. Thank you for coming. We had an individual here today talk about, were the First Nations invited? Well, I can tell you that the Red River Métis were invited. Frances Chartrand was invited. She was invited to be a guest in the audience. Yet, we've opened up a safe, warm space here in this community with help from the province. Bernadette Smith, I want to give her a huge shout out. She was very key and instrumental into coming and meeting with the town and providing funding for that safe, warm space. That safe, warm space is not a place where they go to sleep. I'll just give you some education on it. Just this last month, we had 491 persons come into that place. And we're only open 5 days a week in the evenings. They come in, they can't be under the influence of drugs and alcohol. They come in, it's a place that they can access information about programs for help, programs for assistance, housing, education. We have workers there that actually help them. And yet, the town of Swan River has chosen not to have us on the panel and have questions asked of what we're doing. So I take quite a bit of offense to that. Minister Frances Chartrand, Vice President of the region, she sends her regrets. She wishes she could be here. She's in Ottawa right now, speaking with some federal ministers on some other funding. But I just want to give a shout out to you, Lance, and to Tanya. You guys were instrumental in getting that safe, warm space going. You came to Dauphin. Lance, yourself, and Will. You went to Dauphin, you toured the safe, warm space. We have not had one written complaint about the safe, warm space. We do have people calling, we do have letters, emails of support. We do not have one negative letter, email, correspondence to that. Well, we do have people saying, oh, well, you know, this and that. Let me remind you, 4 people sitting around a coffee shop gossiping, that's not a complaint. That's just old men sitting around or old women sitting around bickering and shooting the breeze, having coffee. If we had a complaint, if you guys have a complaint about our safe, warm space, let us know. We'll address it. We'll deal with it. Like I say, you were on board. You guys toured the space. Yourself and Derek toured it before we even opened it up. And anyway, I will digress. I just wanted the ratepayers of Swan River to know that your Red River Métis government is here and it's trying to help. This is our community. This is your community. It's their community. It's everyone's community. So let's include everybody. I see some people here from Minnetonka. They're crashing the party. The only reason I'm here is because I pay taxes at the Friendship Center. And I'm here on behalf of Frances Chartrand, who can just sit in the audience, even though she spends hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on programming, not only for Swan River, but for the Valley. I don't know.
Okay, well, thank you, Peter, and I appreciate the comments, and I will say, first of all, that when we advertise it, most of our town hall meetings, we do advertise them as to the invitation to the ratepayers. I do apologize if anybody took that in a way that they were not invited to it. I did have some people ask me privately and say, can we actually attend this as well? And I know there's several people here that are attending that are outside or live outside the town of Swan River. So I thank you for bringing that up, and we do apologize for anybody that felt that they could not attend, because this is a public meeting, and in my opinion, anybody can attend. As far as the Friendship Center and the invitation, I do apologize, to Leslie. We know how much the Friendship Center does in the community. I speak with her quite often, and whatever, all the services that they provide. Councillor Powell serves on our council. She is one of the directors, I believe, for the Friendship Center in the past. And she brings a lot of that to the table and reminds us of a lot of that. So we're very thankful and grateful for all the work that the Friendship Center does. Yes, I did attend with Minister Chartrand, the Safe or the Warm Center in Dauphin, and we were very welcoming to having that in the community. I haven't had anybody come to me, you're right, and complain. If they do, then maybe they're complaining to somebody else. I don't know. So I think that it's something that's good piece for people to keep them warm and safe at night. And as far as the MMF goes and the invitation to be on the panel, again, I do apologize for that. When council's discussing with the CAO, and I'm not throwing him under the bus, but we'll take responsibility for that. We were deciding on who we're going to have at the panelists. And we had a huge list. And if Mr. Chartrand is taken back by us not inviting her and the MMF to be a part of the panel, again, I will, on behalf of council, apologize for that. And your group that came here from Dauphin today to take in our meeting, I welcome them and thank them for coming to participate or take in whatever that we can learn from this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Yes, from Dauphin we have the opioids, we have mental health and wellness, and we have Métis community resource workers. So they came prepared to set up booths at the back just to showcase what we have to offer. So it would have been nice to maybe have that available, other than just panelists, have the opportunity for some of the persons attending be able to attend to the different things. Just in closing, thank you, Lance. I will pass those along to Minister Chartrand. I know she's listening to the live stream right now. But in closing, I just want to propose that maybe we can assist with a marketing strategy to educate citizens on what homelessness is, what the Safe Warm Space does. There's a lot of unknowns in the community. We can work together to ensure that we live in a safe community. The third point, and fourth, and probably the most important, and the one that we spearhead in Dauphin, and we're a part of Dauphin's team, and I know everyone here, Dauphin. But anyways, Dauphin has a very good working group. So the organization of a community advisory board to meet monthly and share that information publicly. So the MMF would commit to organizing that and working with the town to formulate that group. So we have experience with that in Dauphin, working with all the different stakeholders, and we would be open to working with the town to establish that here in Swan River. We have a lot of citizens here, and all right, thank you very much for allowing me to continue speaking, Mr. Moderator, and the responses, Lance. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one person at the back that's been waiting for quite a while.
Yes, thank you. My name is Rob Terhorst, and I'll be brief because I want to hear David's response. So I want to just first off ask, how did this meeting date get set with one of the main providers of this issue that you knew was going to be a hot topic with the needle cleanup, not here on the panel? Did Prairie Mountain Health decline their invitation, or did they not want to be a part of this in principle?
We had a long list of invitees that we had asked to attend. Prairie Mountain Health, I spoke with the CEO a couple weeks ago and asked if she would attend, and she declined. But we do have one of the doctors that are from the Department of Health that attended it by Zoom or Teams here. But she had told me back about a week and a half ago that she was not attending for different reasons, and one was that they had already had their Zoom meeting or their Teams meeting with the community a couple weeks ago, and that was one of the reasons why they didn't attend. But they did not. They just chose not to attend tonight.
Okay.
I can't give any other reason why. I just don't know.
Okay. Next question. I agree with Murray, who said that a small percentage of people are causing a disproportionate amount of concern in our community. So the good news to that is that I think it should be attainable for us to do something about it. I think CMHA is a group that should be commended for their efforts. They've taken a lot of heat tonight, and I'm uncomfortable with the sentiment. I think that they fielded more questions than our town council. And again, our town council is the host of this group, of this meeting tonight. So I think that it speaks highly of them that they have working groups working towards these issues. I think that's commendable. I know they have funding that's from beyond our region, so the whole employee thing I don't relate to. But it brings me to the question, what strategic plan does our town have to address these issues? Because these, as has been raised, these are not new issues. And so what initiatives are being piloted? Because it brings me to Ryan's point that as a fellow business owner, we need incentives. We need incentives for businesses to grow and flourish in our community, so we can bring some of these percentages maybe more in relation into a proper percentage. And so that when you drive down Main Street, you see businesses flourishing and you don't see locked doors. And so what, over the last 3 years, have the town brought forward as far as initiatives, pilot programs, and things that you are actively trying regarding the issues that you're raising tonight?
Some of the things that the town has been working on, and some initiatives that you mentioned, in 2023, the Chamber of Commerce was working on providing a community surveillance project. That was going to be well over $100,000 to fund that. The town of Swan River with the RCMP applied for funds from the criminal forfeiture fund, which that question was asked a few moments ago, but the town received $50,000 for that. And so the town forwarded that to the Chamber of Commerce, who was going to fully run that program. And then the town also gave another $40,000, so it was $90,000 that went towards that. Again, that's a program that's been completely ran by the Chamber of Commerce. And then we also provided $10,000 for a patrol vehicle, which is used quite often, I believe. Also, that was ran through the Chamber of Commerce as well. We have, I guess, with the surveillance project that was brought out, the plan was to have a centralized location where these cameras can be viewed and watched in case of any, I guess, criminal activity happening or catch any individuals. And the hope was to have COPP actually have members to go in and watch that. So COPP has had some issues, I think, in the last year. They're looking for a new director, so anybody's interested in doing that. COPP is definitely looking for a new person to kind of head that up to continue on. The town has done a lot of different lobbying as far as asking the province to consider retractable needles. We had a resolution that we brought forward because we thought, well, if you're going to do needle distribution, then make them retractable needles. That way then they're less likely to harm any individuals that are not using. And so that is still ongoing. The province hasn't made that decision if they're going to do that or not. I don't think that is the plan, but we'll continue to lobby on behalf of our community to see if they would consider doing that. And there's several other things that we've been working on. If it's victim impact statements, working with Justice, working with the Department of Justice, and also with Minister Smith on homelessness and so forth. We may not always talk about what we're doing, but council's constantly listening to everybody and trying to do whatever we can that's in our powers that we can deal with the issues that we're living in the community. We're tired of this too, but it's just going to take time, and we're doing the best we can right now, and we'll keep on doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question at the far end there.
Yeah, Jason Delorier. First of all, I guess I just wanted to say I appreciate everybody who is up there on the panel. It's not an easy job. You've had to face a community that's pretty passionate about what's happened to their community in the last decade. So I appreciate that you all were able to stand up there in front of us. But so I completely agree with Ryan, who spoke earlier. Statistics can be skewed and cherry-picked to push an agenda. Mostly, though, I think they're probably used to protect empire building. Here's some statistics, straight from Statistics Canada. In 2015, before needle distribution became mainstream in Manitoba, Manitoba had 84 overdose deaths. In 2024, we had 382. If it was working, as we've been told from upon high, in the decade since needle distribution has been widespread, would we see a 400% increase? You know, if there's one overarching thing that I heard here tonight, the needles are not working by any reasonable person's estimation. This is our lived experience, regardless of what the statistics say. We all see it, and we're not all hallucinating what we're seeing. It's almost insulting to be told from an ivory tower that everything is working and it can't possibly be contributing to the crime and devastation we're seeing. They say perception is reality, and the perception is that the needles are harm redistribution at best, redistributing the harm from users to the population at large. There's one question I have, and I'm sure it's not going to be popular with the bureaucrats, but I'd like an actual answer. What can we do as a community to get rid of the needle distribution? Who can we lobby? Who can we talk to? What are the concrete steps we can take to get rid of the needles?
Anyone want to speak on that?
It's an easy question. Who do we talk to get rid of the needles? So PMH gives out all the needles, and they're...
So I'll be very honest when I say that's a great question, and I don't really have the answer to it. But the gentleman up here just asked, CEO of CMHA, what does that mean? So that's the Canadian Mental Health Association, and as I've stated, we don't do needle distribution. It's not within our mandate, and we're not funded to do that program. But with that being said, the organization or the agency that I know it sits within, because it's a publicly funded health program, is Prairie Mountain Health as the service delivery organization, the SDO within our area. And so if there are continued frustrations and challenges around that, then I would strongly suggest that it needs to be lobbied to PMH and to Manitoba Health. I'm not siding with one or the other. We as CMHA, we have a harm reduction statement. Like I said, all our programs are rooted in harm reduction across the spectrum of what harm reduction is. But as far as actually who to speak to, my understanding is, again, provincially funded health program, it needs to be the provincial funding, the provincial health. So that's where I'm going to leave that.
Go ahead, David. Get the last. Did you want to?
Yes. Questions answered from the province, so I was just coming back up again. It was the questions about Swan River being considered a hub for an addictions facility, similar to Parkwood in Brandon or Willard Munson House in St. Rose. If the province has ever considered that as an option for Swan River, for those wanting to seek treatment, wanting to help themselves.
Again, it's a provincial health question, so there's no one here that could give you an answer on that.
I'll try.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Like I said, that's not my division, but it's definitely something I can take back as something being heard from the community, as something that, as an option for the whole spectrum of services in terms of having a treatment option there. I know that the department does have and are engaging in conversations with Indigenous-led models of treatment, and that doesn't preclude that from happening in an area such as Swan River. But I definitely have heard that, and definitely will take that back. And thank you for that solution to the issue. Thank you.
Can I?
Does anybody explain exactly what the warm space is? Does it run the whole year? Like, I'm pretty ignorant to what the warm space is, but I'm hoping that there actually is one, because I see all these young girls walking around with their backpacks, their bags day after day, and I really worry where they go at night.
I was going to. So Leslie, if you want to answer that, that'll be okay. I invite you to. I do know part of it, but I don't know the whole program what you have there.
Well, well, well. Leslie, can you please explain the Safe Warm program? That is one of my recommendations. I just wanted to jump up here and point out that I came to the mic with some recommendations and some ways to solve problems, and I encourage the others here as well to come up with some ideas to help solve those problems, not just say, who can we blame and how do we make it stop? How do you make it stop? Anyway, sorry, I'm not on the panel.
Yeah, a lot. I'm much shorter. Thank you. So my name is Leslie Sembelik. I'm the current executive director for the Albert Charter and Friendship Center, coming up on 1 year in a week. So at the front door, I don't know if everybody had a chance, but we did print out some pamphlets. It's a program in part with our Housing First model. So what we did was we met with the Northwest Métis Council in Dauphin. They run a 24-hour space. Neither space is a shelter. Neither space has a bed. I've had that question asked, and I'm saying it here right now. There are no beds in this space. Before we opened it up, we toured with RCMP officers, we toured with the CAO, we toured with town council to show them the design of the space. It has not changed since that day. So what we do is we are only able, because of our lack of funding, to run 5 days a week. So what we did was we looked at what are the most popular days of the week. So we chose to operate that we include the weekends, because we said on the weekends, that's when there's a lack of services for downtown and stuff like that. So we operate Thursday through to Monday. We open up at 7:30 for the staff to go in. We open the doors to people at 8 p.m. We shut the doors at 7:30 a.m. We have TVs, we have tables and chairs, we have microwaves, we have food that is prepared at the kitchen at the Friendship Center to bring to people at the Safe Warm space. We provide them TV, there's a telephone there, there's computers there if they need to access stuff. We also have security that we have to contract in, which is the largest portion of our funding, so that there's security there as long as there's staff there and as long as there's individuals there. Like Peter said, we do not allow people to come in that are under the influence. We don't allow people to remain in there if they are threatening anybody or if they're acting out for whatever reason. It's exactly what it says it is. It is a safe, warm space. We said 193 people that have actually signed our code of ethics to enter the space. That's a much higher number than what was said here today. So, and that is not just people that are homeless. Those are people that are also having issues maintaining food and stuff like that. They're coming to see us because we give them soup. We give them bannock. We also have staff that provide them socks. We provide hygiene kits for women. We provide different things like that. That's what it is. It's for people to come in, sit down, hang out, watch TV, have coffee. We serve breakfast. That's simply what it is. (8 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. Thursday to Monday.
Thanks, Leslie.
Go ahead, sir. Last two questions.
Thank you. So my name is Ryan Boyd. I'm sure all of you know me. I have been in this community for about 15 years. I was an immigrant from Scotland. I've got a little bit of a story. I'll try to keep it short, and then I have a couple of questions. I'm a business owner in Swan River. You can see my business right now. I'm providing sound and live stream for this. I have done almost every single live stream and meeting for the crime. Believe me, I probably know more than most. I've sat through hours of this stuff. I'm also out at night. I'm a DJ. I work at all hours of the night. I'm usually the last to leave, so believe me, I see a lot of stuff. I can give you a list of what's happened to me. I've had my wallet stolen 3 times in 1 year. I had my credit card tapped. I had my vehicle stolen. The same guy was out 2 weeks later. So he stole my vehicle. He stole my credit card. He dropped the vehicle off. Blah, blah, blah. They caught him. They put him in the cells. I gave a statement. The same guy came out. He then jacked me while I was working. So I was in my car, loading my vehicle, and he got into my vehicle when I was in it. The same guy got into a scuffle. He drove off with me hanging on to the steering wheel. I went flying into a garage, cut my arm. He then took that vehicle and he T-boned it into his school bus. Okay? He got away somehow, and people were wondering why the Westman guy was T-boning school buses, but that's another story. So this guy was also let out on jail. I think he was in for a couple of months, and then he actually came and approached me on the street. Now, I'm not scared of people, so I chatted with him, and he tried to apologize and said that it wasn't him. Unbelievable. Whatever. So I actually chatted with him, and we had a conversation and stuff, and to be fair, he had apologized. But this is the kind of stuff that I deal with in this town. And another story, I clean, or I help, or I run cables, or I used to run cables anyway before I started my new job. I got poked by a drug needle. I then had to do 1 year of testing. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes with that, the blood work all the time, just to make sure that I'm safe. And then there's my wife and my family. I got to make sure that I don't pass it on to them. So I've went through a lot in this community, and I'm not scared of people. I'm not scared of these people. I mean, a lot of people are afraid for their lives, right? Afraid for their lives. When I came here to this town, it was the most beautiful town I've ever seen. I loved it. That's why I'm here with my family right now, right? And my main question is, like everyone else, what are we going to do about this, right? And I know it's a really hard question to answer, but I do have one specific question about the reduction of needles, right? So as someone who's been through it, I know what it's like to go through that. And there's a self-retracting needle, right? I know, and Lance has talked to this, and we talked about it years ago. And I'd like to know the costs of what that is. How much does it cost? Is it more? Is it less? Because I remember hearing, and I did some research on this, that it wasn't going to be that much more. And in the business that I'm in, when we have stuff like needles that are kicking about, right? I understand it would be lovely just to not have needles distributed, right? I get that, right? But realistic is people are going to use drugs, right? And we're trying to give them a safe equipment to use drugs. I get that. But here's a really good solution to a big problem that I believe would keep people safe, right? People like myself, people like my kids, right? Yes, I'd love if all these needles were gone, and that's a solution for another day. But these self-retracting needles are a fantastic solution to a huge problem that we have in this community. And I really want to know the answer as to how much did this cost, what is the program out there, and what is the response to this? Because this is such an easy solution to keep our community safe from this terrible problem that we're having right now. Thank you.
Mayor will speak.
When we asked that question about having retractable needles and we asked about the cost, it sounds like they said it was roughly about 3 times the cost. Yeah, but again, you know, coming from what we heard tonight, you know, when I have a chance to see the minister on Friday, I'll be bringing up some of these items that, you know, I'm taking away, and needle distribution, I'll mention that as well, and being a hub center for treatment, I'll definitely be bringing that up too. But I think Mr. Gray had a question.
I did. So I actually didn't think I was going to have to speak because I thought Rob had asked the question and then he let you off the hook. So now I'm back up here. You know, I grew up in Swan River. My family were one of the original homesteaders. And we got along. The reason we got along, the reason we prospered, the reason the community is what it is, why people come here, is because we got along. Nobody blamed anybody. We looked for solutions and we did things, and we've getting a bit off that path. So, and one of the reasons we had that is we had people years ago when I was growing up, at least, who when they were leaders, they said, here's what we need to do, and they built a consensus. So this is, and Rob's question was this, and then he let you off the hook by saying, well, give us specific examples, because the two aren't the same. Does the town have a strategic plan or a structural plan to deal with crime reduction, which would include looking at the research that's necessary to be done and having those statistics and material available, and taking the issues and suggestions that have been made here, including an overseeing council and things like that? Does it have that, and is it available to be seen if you do? I suspect we don't yet, and if you don't, I have a second question then, okay?
So I believe when you sat on council, we had worked on a strategic plan for the whole entire community, and that has been updated since then. I know you're asking the question on crime, or homelessness and addictions and all those things. And council's been working on that. This is part of the process, hearing the community speak. We're working with the groups that we have, Canadian Mental Health and with the province and so forth. But to bring people together and find out what our solutions are. Community safety and well-being plan. That's something that's been worked on with, we have members of council that sit on a committee right now. And yes, as you heard from Mr. Wigley say, that this has been a long process. It's been well over 2 years. But yes, we're working on that. Can we do better? Of course we can. We're not perfect, but we are trying our best to come to that stage if it's what you're asking for, that strategy on what we could do as a community.
If I'm a hard person by nature, most of you know me, I don't have an unlimited amount of patience. In fact, some people say I have no patience at all. So, but what I'm asking is, do you actually have a plan? And I'm not, it's not a criticism saying you're not working hard enough or you're not trying or you're not interested. I'm not bringing any of that. All I'm asking is there an actual plan that you could present? And I suspect the answer is no,
yeah.
But you're working on it.
Yes.
Okay.
You're right.
Right. So the second question then is, do you commit to having a plan in place in a reasonable period of time to making sure that we get the statistics and to presenting a plan that then can be discussed where people have actual concrete ability to look at what's being proposed and suggest it? Because, and it comes back to the purpose of this meeting, because if you have an unstructured meeting that has no agenda and no structure, all that happens is everybody gets up and has their piece of why they're particularly angry, and we don't focus on the solution. And I'm just as angry. I've had 5 break-ins myself, and I'm not happy about that, I got to tell you. I've got to talk to Cole about one of the things too anyway. But anyway, that aside, do you commit to doing that? Because that's the step that needs to come out of here, is next time, instead of having a panel of speakers, I'd much rather have a bunch of papers from them that say this is what we've done and so on. We can read those in advance, and then come here with a plan that says, here's the stats, here's what our structure is, here's what we say solutions are for the 5 or 6 or 17 issues that confront us. And we can have an honest and reasonable debate about that, rather than getting in a circle and shooting each other. That seems to me unhelpful. So I really am just asking for a commitment that that's what we're going to head to, and that be within a reasonable period of time.
Yeah,
thanks,
and that's fair. And thank you, David. When people were saying to me, we need to have a town hall, and then I thought, well, then how are we going to structure that, or what do we want out of it? More people said to me they want to speak, but going and having their opportunity to, hear what's going on and how things are done, if it's Neil distribution or whatever it might be, crime. But to answer your question on that, yes, I will say on behalf of council that we're committed to that. This is the reason why we're having this tonight. We want to hear more. We'll keep on working with the government and the other service groups that we have and who provides services to our ones, of need in the community. But yes, we will. And I know that our CAO, Will, is over there right now taking notes all night, and he'll be breaking this back, and council will start talking about what that strategy looks like.
So you and Mark and most of the people here know me well enough to know that that's not the answer. So the question is, when will we see that plan? And that's the key. Because yes, I have every faith it'll come, but if it comes when I'm 90, which is 20-some years from now, I won't be very happy.
Okay, well, I know you probably won't be if it's 90 years old, so just 1 second.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Gray. I'm going to throw His Worship a lifeline here, because I know what you're asking for, and yes, it is being worked on, and right now it's called the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. And I'm not sure if you're totally familiar with that is, but the province has engaged a consulting firm with along as 11 other communities in the province. So over the last little while, we've been collecting all the data, like available data that's out there, and then doing community engagements with various groups. I have the raw data here that just been given to us by the consultants that's amalgamated all the surveys that people have filled out and the results of the community engagement sessions. The steering committee that's part of all of the community from various groups are meeting on October 20th to go through all this data and the trends that are being identified. That's throughout all this data collection and the surveys that's been going out there. And then from there, then the strategic of where we're gonna go, what's needed, what's potential actions will be formulated, and then it'll be presented to the public and for review to see if that's the right direction.
Okay. So I've stolen from just about everybody who's spoken before me, so I'm gonna steal from Jason. Like that's not actually a direct answer. I'm gonna tell you a story that Ferdinand Gabosh told years and years ago. When he was growing up, his dad had this big old tomcat that used to go around Camperville, and it would go out and it would fight the other cats, and it would make new cats, and it would do all those kind of terrible things. Mm-hmm. And so he owned a grocery store, and it started affecting his business. So finally, Ferdinand's father had gotten enough complaints, and he got that cat fixed. So the cat was not a big old tomcat anymore. And after that, that tomcat only went out on Saturday nights, and then only as a consultant. So that's what I think of consultants.
Leave it at that.
One comment, and then we'll closing day.
Roger?
Thank you, Roger. I just wanted to let everyone know, Vice President Chartrand has been texting me here, and we've decided that because there's so much interest in the programming that we do offer, Northwest Métis Council has committed to hosting an information session on the programs and the supports from our partners and we would like everyone to attend here in Swan River. So everyone here today, we want to host that to show what we're doing. Show the partners that are involved. We're very heavily involved with the province. A lot of good works coming from that ministry of Bernadette Smith. And I would just like to take this time to personally invite everyone here to come out when we do have that. We just sort of decided to have it here, but as an answer to some of the concerns of those here, we're going to have that hopefully within the next month or two. So.
Thank you.
So I hope to see everyone come out. We'll advertise it on Facebook. It'll be advertised through the Friendship Center. And just to give everyone here a bit of an idea. That's a commitment that we're doing.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for coming out. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you again for coming out. This is part of the solution, is hearing your concern, and they've been heard tonight. I know it's not probably quick enough, but they've been heard, and I want to thank all the people that came out and was able to provide you some answers, and have a safe trip home. Thank you.